It's a pleasure to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Pankaj Kamalia, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Gujarat State CSR Authority. Then Mr. Parag Bhai Desai of the Vagbakri Group. And this event is held under the auspices of the Vagbakri AMA Center of Governance, one of the activity centers of AMA. Mr. Bhushan Punani, who heads the Blind People's Association. And of course, my colleague and Vice President of AMA, Dr. Savan Goriawala. Since time immemorial, like in our civilization, like others, we've had the very strong tradition of one strata of society, usually the stronger one financially or otherwise, helping another strata of society which was more needy. And this happened in several ways, by charity or in an organized fashion, philanthropy, helping through groups. Those groups could be like religious, caste-based, community-based, geographical-based, a town, city. And then, of course, like today, you have the social clubs and all that, companies doing this. But this has been going on. And formally, over the period of time in India for the business sector, it was the government that actually brought the CSR law. Of course, we will be talking about that, but that just came in, I think, about 2013. But yes, again, as you all know, there are rich traditions in India where business houses, the business owners and great companies like Tata, they had the word CSR even before it was mandated. Even in the pre-independence era, they did a good amount of welfare work, not only for their staff, but the surrounding communities. So anyway, this will be discussed by the distinguished speakers. Besides this, we will have other speakers, as you mentioned in the schedule, so I'll not waste your time. And I'm sure it will be a great takeaway. And to take the proceedings further, I request my friend Dr. Savan Goriawala to carry on the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Divyesh Bhai. Good morning, friends. Shri Pankaj Bhai, Parag Bhai, Bhushan Bhai, Dangayat Sir, Padmin Bhai, Neeraj, and friends. Good morning. Winter, as we can see the winter setting in, and happy to see so many registrations and the relevant people over here. As Divyesh Bhai mentioned, we did a similar conference, and again, thanks to Dangayat Sir who had curated that conference just pre-COVID. And we could see a lot of value that people could take home. And that's the purpose of today's conference also. That especially people know there is a CSR, there is a law, and first time that India was the country when the Companies Act 2013 was enacted, Section 135, that it was a mandatory law. And of course, a lot of countries had voluntary and then recommendatory kind of. But the purpose was that there is a law, a lot of people are obligated to do that. There's implementing agencies also who do that, is the NGOs generally. But important to know the context that there is a requirement and then fulfillment and the compliances. So the purpose is what the corporates typically look into, ensure that they are within the law, as well as the purpose. There's a motive. This is not just the mandate, but there's a motive behind it. Like if I look at Parag Bhai or Vagbakri, this came in the 1st of April 2014, but they have been doing this as a CSR for whole life, that at least I am seeing for 31 years that I am in the profession. So one is a motive, then which converted into a mandate. But so the understanding is that ultimately there's an impact that is supposed to be there. At the same time, you have to be within the bylaws and the law. When I said implementing agency and the NGOs, that also the statistics are about 46% of the total CSR funds are implemented through the NGOs, to the implementing. 32, 9, 46, there are some, but only 30% is done directly. Quite a bit of corporates have their own foundations where they do it through their foundation, but almost half of the total funds of 25,000 crores or rupees in 2021, which were channelized through implementing agency. Now, implementing agency, that's the NGOs generally who would actually ensure that the funds are used for the purpose that the CSR committee has approved or the board of directors have approved, are converted into the utilization and ultimately the impact assessment. So there is an obligation also on the implementing agency, which is the purpose of this conference, that what typically a blind people's association would do when they get the CSR funds, and how do they ensure that the CSR, the donor also or the contributor also ensures the compliance as well as they give an impact also. So that would be something which would be a big takeaway today. The flow of the event that today that we have, thanks that we have the Gujarat CSR Authority CEO with us, Pankaj ji, and thanks Mr. Pankaj Kamlia for being with us. I'll just introduce you. Pankaj bhai is a Chief Operating Officer of Gujarat CSR Authority, and since its inception, the GCSR Authority has envisioned not only in acting as a means of social development, but also as a replicable model that can be adopted and improved across the state, benefiting thousands of people. So there's a very clear initiative by the Gujarat government and the authority wherein Pankaj ji had. So we will have a perspective. So in the flow of events, he is going to set the table as his chief guest speech. We have Parag bhai with us. Parag bhai, as I said, they are corporates in the CSR. He is the executive director, Waghbakri Tea Group, which is known to one and all. And he did his MBA from the Long Island University, the US. He spearheaded sales, marketing and export department of the group, the Waghbakri Group, and he is an expert tea taster. And tea tasters are very significant people in the industry of tea. There were very few in the whole country that I would say as expert tea tasters. So thanks Parag bhai, and of course I'll do the honors of the floral welcome together. And we have then Bhushan bhai Punani. Bhushan bhai Punani is the chairperson West Asia at International Council of Education of Children with Visual Impairment. Everybody knows him. He is the Blind People Association man, and he is taken it to where it is and the effect or impact that it is making. He serves as Executive Secretary at Blind People Association, which has emerged as one of the leading disability development NGOs in the country, promotes comprehensive services for persons with all categories of disabilities. And certainly we must look at the work that BPA has been doing. He is also director on some companies including the Waghbakri. So may I request Divyesh bhai, our president, to please offer a welcome to Pankaj ji. Divyesh bhai, Parag bhai. Yes, Parag bhai rightly mentioned, he is our own AMA Nath. He is also on the executive board of the AMA. So without spending more time on this, may I request Pankaj ji please to deliver your speech. Thanks.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to convey sincere thanks from Gujarat CSR Authority to Ahmedabad Management Association for arranging this sort of communication and dialogue between the stakeholder group and companies and government. And from GCSR, we convey thanks to give us this platform to interact. And I must also congratulate Mr. Desai from Waghbakri Group, Radia Saab and Mr. Godiwala to be on panel with me today, and probably will start the day with sort of setting a tone for the whole day, that what we'll be discussing whole day. And certainly CSR has become a talk of the town during COVID times, before COVID times also, when the rules were pretty amended. Various changes have been introduced by Government of India, and companies were a bit worried that how we'll be coping up with these new changes. how we'll be coming up with this emerging this thing trends wherein we are facing even planning the projects, कैसे projects को plan किया जाए, how we document the success, how we measure the outcomes. So all those were challenges were faced by the companies, and I'm very happy to say that during COVID times, CSR has played immense role. Like very active role was played by the companies based in Gujarat. Across country, we have seen various new development innovations have been done. Companies have come up with solutions in COVID, जहाँ पे हम सोच नहीं पा रहे थे कि ये इस तरह के कोई solutions कंपनी बना सकती है. In CSR, they have come up with such solutions. So कोविड टाइम्स कंपनीज हैव प्लेड वेरी पाइवट रोल. और हम अगर पूरा ट्रेंड देखा जाए, इफ़ यू सी द होल ट्रेंड ऑफ द डेटा व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड इन 2014-15, the overall national contribution was around 14,000 crore, and we were contributing as Gujarat around 800 crore. So now in 2021 we stands at 1445 CR as Gujarat, and nationally is 25,000 plus. So undoubtedly the graph is increasing, but where we are contributing, that is the things to now before the people who are managing CSR, the challenges lies like what projects we are planning, where we are going in right direction, we are measuring our success, we are documenting the success, we are sharing our success with other people are getting motivated to do similar type of activities in their geography. So these are the challenges. Like now we are seeing in the professional community, they are talking on these topics, and it's very important. When we started Gujarat CSR Authority in 2014-15, we were trying to make aware the professional community. This is the CSR rules. This way you can plan your projects. You have to see where your money is going. You have to see you are investing your rupee, the hard-earned money in CSR. Then you must see that what outcomes you are making. But nowadays, I'm like seeing young people who are joining CSR. They are raising this question that if I'm investing 10 lakh rupees in this project, what will I get out of like implementing this project post a period of 1 or 2 years? So this is very very happening developments in CSR. Nationally, the committees are like every day they are when reviewing the CSR, ATG, 12AB, CSR 1. This new changes has been introduced in 21 CSR amendment. Impact assessment of more than 1 crore investment is mandatory by law. Various new changes have been introduced. I'm sure in a detailed presentation in like post this inaugural session, the things will be discussed in a more detailed manner. But in being in Gujarat and talking on this platform, I would like to share some successes made by Gujarat CSR Authority. As Gujarat, we are always a front runner in showing the other state of the country that what we are doing in Gujarat is a pilot and replicable model. So post Gujarat CSR Authority in 2015, we started. Government of Goa has invited us. They set up their CSR Authority. Just a few minutes ago, Mr. Rathia was asking that have some other states adopted this model. So Gujarat CSR Authority model has been successfully adopted by Goa, Haryana, Punjab. The same model of Gujarat CSR Authority has been replicated there. Rajasthan is also on the line. And being in a state body at state level who is like taking onus of being in a CSR owner is very important, because we are getting requests from multiple companies at the local level since 2-3 years back that we are implementing a project at the local level. We are not getting proper support. We need some support. So then we identify and locate where they are having difficulties. If they have local communication and coordination related issue, we try to resolve them. Plus, we try implementing multiple projects on thematic areas like women development, women empowerment related issues, child development, education, sanitation, multiple domains. We implemented almost 120 plus projects in various domains. We have our dedicated website, YouTube channel. I request all of you who are present here must look at the YouTube channel of GCSR, wherein we have uploaded 2-3 minute short videos that what we have done in that project and what are the success model. So if you would like to plan that similar projects in your geography, it will give you a like punch that yes, I can plan this way, this manner. So the challenges we have documented more efficiently, because in any of the project, if you planning it fresh, then the challenges are more important. That what sort of challenges you will face on your way to getting towards success. So these are the few things I would like to mention. And I must say that this sort of dialogues are very important for CSR fraternity, because when we work in the field, everyday challenges are there before us. We have multiple questions, and this sort of platforms give us the chance to communicate with each other. So this sort of platforms are very important and plays very pivotal role when we plan and we go towards our planning our projects. सो ये कुछ जो बातें थी आपसे मैं करना चाह रहा था, एंड इन्हीं बातों के साथ मैं ये बोलना चाहता हूँ आपको कि व्हेन वी प्लान अवर नेक्स्ट ईयर्स प्रोजेक्ट, वी मस्ट सी दैट व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ प्रायोरिटीज वी हैव इन अवर माइंड. A very important role of board, particularly you are probably from the execution side or probably some board member sitting here on the dais, but the very crucial role is of the board is to identify the project, to plan the project, to identify a good implementing agency, to measure their success, and to document that success or the failure as well. I'll always not say the successes need to be documented, but the failures are also required to be documented, because that failure will certainly help the future planners. उसी दिशा में जो दूसरे लोग आगे बढ़ने वाले हैं उनको कुछ जानने मिलेगा आपके फेलियर्स से. सो दैट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड आई थैंक यू ऑल ऑफ यू टू जॉइन दिस डे टुडे विथ AMA, एंड थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you, Mr. Kamlia. Yes, I think very important, and maybe this would have been a good idea. We could have played a few of the YouTube videos also, but we'll certainly take home this, that we should look at that the Gujarat CSR authority is also doing and documenting the stories. I think that's very important, because that will be the impact, and that will also be a motivation for others to do that. So in the sequence, as I said in the initial session, we have Parag Bhai and Bhushan Bhai Punani. So we can request Bhushan Bhai to give his ideas, and then maybe have a few questions that we can I would like to ask, or we can all have a few questions from him. Bhushan Bhai, as I introduced, handles or large projects for the disabled, especially the visually impaired. And we can get an idea, Bhushan Bhai, from the point of view of how the corporates and you work on the CSR projects, and then what would you as BPA do for so far as the implementation and impact reporting is concerned. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Good morning. सबसे पहला, sorry, I'll talk in Gujarati, is okay? Anybody has problem? કે આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં વાત કરીએ તો હૃદયથી વાત થાય, રાઈટ? અને માનનીય શ્રી પંકજભાઈ, મને આપણે જણાવતા આનંદ થાય છે કે ગુજરાત શાયદ એક જ સ્ટેટ એવા છે કે જ્યાં CS ઓથોરિટી ગુજરાત સરકારે બનાવી છે, બટ એઝ એન NGO. That is status of an NGO. Congratulations to Gujarat and પંકજભાઈ. આપની વાત થઈ કે પરાગભાઈ CSR તો આવ્યા છે, પણ વાઘ બકરી તો જ્યારથી બની છે ત્યારથી CSR કરતી આવી છે અને કરતી રહેશે. કાયદા હોય કે નહીં હોય, અમુક કંપનીઓ CSR કરવાની છે. આજે આપણે કેટલું આનંદ થાય છે કે દિવેશભાઈ AMAના પ્રેસિડેન્ટ ફ્રોમ ધ કોર્પોરેટ, એન્ડ હી ઇઝ ઓલ્સો વેરી કીન કે આપણે CSRને ઇમ્પેટસ મળવું જોઈએ, ફોકસ મળવું જોઈએ. હું આપણે જસ્ટિફાઈ કરીશ કે ગુજરાત ઘણું પાછળ છે, આપણે ઘણું કામ કરવાનું છે, અને એનું બહુ મોટો રોલ છે આ કરવામાં. અને સાવંતભાઈ, મને કહેતા ગર્વ થાય છે કે મારા મિત્ર બી છે અને ડોનર બી છે, અને સંસ્થાને ગાઈડ બી કરે છે. અને બહુ આનંદ થાય છે કે અહીંયા ઘણા જાણીતા ચહેરા આપણી સામે બેઠા છે. ખાલી હું મારી વાત કરું, એક સવાલ પૂછી લઉં. સોરી, જેટલો બી ટાઈમ છે આપણે થોડા ઇન્ટરેક્શનથી આગળ જઈશું, કે આપ બધા એક્સપર્ટ છો, આપ મારે કરતાં બી વધારે સારું જાણો છો. એક સવાલ પૂછી લઉં, NGOના કેટલા પાર્ટિસિપન્ટ છે? હાથ ઊંચા કરશો. ક્વાઇટ અ ફ્યુ. અને કોર્પોરેટ? વેરી ગુડ. ધીસ ઇઝ અ વેરી ગુડ બેલેન્સ, ઓલમોસ્ટ 50-50. થેન્ક યુ સર ફોર બ્રિંગિંગ બોથ ધ પ્લેટફોર્મ્સ ટુગેધર. બીજો એક સવાલ છે, આપ સ્ક્રીન પર જોઈ શકો છો. આપને લાગે છે કે આ જે CSRની વાતો થાય છે આપણા માટે ફંડ રેઝિંગ અને રિસોર્સ મોબિલાઇઝેશન એક સુનેરી તક છે? કોને લાગે છે કે CSR NGO માટે રિસોર્સ મોબિલાઇઝેશનનું એક બહુ સારું સોર્સ છે? ક્વાઇટ a few, but ઘણા નથી લાગતું. Maybe they are from the corporate, they are in the giving side. And is the CSR, sorry, read as CSR, I'm man of CBR તો ભૂલથી ટાઈપ થઈ જાય છે. CSR a great opportunity for corporate to promote social causes. આપને લાગે છે કે આ સમાજની સેવા કરવા માટે CSR એક સારી ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી છે? થેન્ક યુ વેરી મચ. આ ફક્ત ગુજરાતમાં થાય છે, બીજી જગ્યાએ એવું નથી થતું. લોકો એવું કહે છે આ તો બર્ડન છે, અમને સરકાર કમ્પેલ કરે છે. ગુજરાતની પરંપરા છે, ગુજરાતની એક ટ્રેડિશન છે કે આપણે માનવ વિકાસમાં વિશ્વાસ રાખીએ છીએ. અને ઇઝ CSR કન્વિનિયન્ટ? ઇઝ ઇટ કન્વિનિયન્ટ ટુ કમ્પ્લીટ ધ ફોર્મેલિટીઝ ઓફ CSR? નીરજભાઈ ના પાડે છે. એકચ્યુઅલી એવું નથી. જો આપણે કંઈ બી મદદ જોઈએ, સ્ટેટ્યુટરી કમ્પ્લાયન્સ તો પૂરા કરવા જ પડે. એક જ છે કે આપણી NGO થોડી કમ્પ્લસન્ટ છે. આપણે એવું માની કે ચેક મળી ગયા અને આપણને દાન મળી ગયા, આપણે જમા લઈ લીધું, વી ક્રેડિટેડ અવર અકાઉન્ટ એન્ડ ફિનિશ. બટ CSR એવું નથી. It's a process. It's not a donation. That's what I'll try to justify. મેં જે વાત કરી કે CSR અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ મી, મને લાગે છે, અને હું CSRના બહુ સપોર્ટર છું, આપણા દેશ માટે, આપણા સમાજ માટે, આપણી NGO માટે વિકાસની એક ગોલ્ડન ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી છે. ઇટ્સ લાઇક એ મૂન. ઇટ્સ બ્યુટિફુલ. ઇટ્સ અપ ટુ યુ. એ આપણા પર આધારિત છે આપ મૂન સુધી કેવી રીતે પહોંચો છો, અને યુ કેન ટેક યોર શેર ઓફ દેટ બ્યુટિફુલ મૂન. બટ ઇટ્સ અકોર્ડિંગ ટુ મને લાગે છે કે સરકારે આ સદીમાં સૌથી સારું કામ કર્યું હોય કોર્પોરેટ અને NGO માટે ઇઝ ટુ બ્રિંગ ઇન CSR. એન્ડ નોટ ઓનલી ટુ બ્રિંગ ઇન, but to make it mandatory and make it very, very complex and difficult for the corporate to avoid using CSR. I'll justify કે આ ખાલી લો નથી, લોની પાછળ બહુ મોટો અભિગમ છે. આપ જોઈ શકો છો કે 2016માં when we started, 14,300 crores were spent on CSR. It's a large amount, and it jumped to 25,000 crores in 2021, and this year ટાર્ગેટ ઇઝ 50,000 કરોડ્સ. થોડી શેર માર્કેટ ડાઉન ચાલે છે, આવતા વર્ષે અસર થશે, પણ એઝ ઓન ટુડે લાગે છે કે 50,000 કરોડ શુડ બી સ્પેન્ટ. ઇઝ નોટ એ સ્મોલ અમાઉન્ટ. ખાલી 50,000 કરોડ કહેવાથી લાગે છે કે 50,000 કરોડ છે, બિગ અમાઉન્ટ. પ્રોબલી આપણે દેશમાં NGO બધી અમાઉન્ટ ખર્ચ કરી શકે એવી કેપેસિટી જ નથી, એવી NGOs નથી કે જેટલા લાર્જ સ્કેલ સ્પેન્ડ કરી શકે. સો આ આપણા માટે એક બહુ ગોલ્ડન ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી છે. અને થેન્ક્સ ટુ AMA એન્ડ ધ ટીમ કે આપણે વારંવાર એવું સેમિનાર કરતા રહીએ છીએ ટુ મોટિવેટ NGOs ટુ કમ્પ્લીટ ધ ફોર્મેલિટીઝ, ટુ મોટિવેટ કોર્પોરેટ ટુ સ્પેન્ડ ધ મની ધ વે ઇટ હેઝ ટુ બી સ્પેન્ડ. ઇટ્સ અ વેરી ગુડ ઇનિશિયેટિવ. નાઉ ગુજરાતની વાત કરીએ. જ્યારે મહારાષ્ટ્ર કુડ સ્પેન્ડ 17,500 crores, Gujarat spent only 6,500 crores. જ્યારે કે ગુજરાતમાં સેવાની ભાવના, corporate giants, many have headquarters in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad or elsewhere, but unfortunately we are not even half the way to Maharashtra, and there are many other states which are ahead of us. તો આપણા માટે ચેલેન્જ છે કે જ્યારે 50,000 કરોડ આપણા પાસે અવેલેબલ છે અને મોટાભાગની બિગ વિગ્સ, અડાની ફાઉન્ડેશન હોય કે રિલાયન્સ હોય કે વાઘ બકરી હોય કે ફાર્માસ્યુટિકલ કંપનીઝ હોય, they all have headquartered in Gujarat or related to Gujarat, and Gujaratis dominate in most of these companies. Still, આંકડા કહે છે કે આપણે પાછળ છીએ, મહેનત કરવી પડશે, આપણે બહુ વધારે ફંડ મેળવી શકીએ છીએ. એક નાની સ્ટોરી કહું છું કે CSR કેટલું વન્ડરફુલ ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી છે. નામથી કહું છું, નામ જોગ કહું છું, મેં વ્યક્તિની પરમિશન લીધેલી છે. અને સમસારા ગ્રુપ ઇઝ એ શિપિંગ કંપની. They are based in Mumbai, but Mr. Mukesh Oza belongs to Ahmedabad, studied in Ahmedabad. તો અહીંયાથી પસાર થતા હતા, એને એકવાર લાગે કે ચલો આપણે કંઈ CSR કરવાનું છે તો અંધજન મંડળને થોડી મદદ કરીએ. Of course, we completed the formality but did everything. And first year, they sanctioned 90 sewing machines कि ન્યૂ બહેનોને સિલાઈ કામની તાલીમ આપીને આપણે સિલાઈ મશીન આપી દેવાના છે. ન્યૂ બહેનોને આપણે પગભર કરી દેવાના છે. ફ્રેન્ડ્સ, CSR તો ફોર્માલિટી છે જ, વિચ ઇઝ ઇઝી ટુ કમ્પ્લીટ, પણ એમના જે ઇમ્પેક્ટ એરિયા છે દેટ ઇઝ વેરી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ કે તમે CSRથી ઇમ્પેક્ટ શું ક્રિએટ કરો છો. નંબર 2, કેવી રીતે રિપોર્ટ કરો છો એનજીઓની આવડત પર આધારિત છે. BPA is known for that. We did project across Saurashtra, central Gujarat, and completed, just to tell you, it has to be completed well on time, before 31st March. There's no way of extension. We completed the project. Mr. Mukesh Oza, Tina Ben, they all remain present in the final program. Just see the outcome. જે વ્યક્તિ ખાલી ન્યૂ સિલાઈ મશીન આપીને આપણને પ્રોજેક્ટ આપે છે, એકદમ અનાઉન્સ કરી દે છે કે હું ન્યૂમાંથી આ ફિગર વધારીને 1008 સિલાઈ મશીન આપવાનું કમિટમેન્ટ કરું છું. That's the beauty of CSR. He increased the commitment 10 times in one go. Why? He saw by spending 20,000 rupees, આપણે 20,000 ખર્ચ કરીએ તો એક વિકલાંગ બહેન પગભર થઈ જાય તે કમાતી થઈ જાય છે. બિલીવ મી, આનાથી બહાર સારો અભિગમ કોઈ હોઈ શકે જ નહીં કે તમે 20,000 ખર્ચ કરવાથી, ટ્રેનિંગ આપવાથી, ઉષા સિલાઈ મશીન આપવાથી તમે કોઈને પગભર કરી દો. This is the God's blessing. And today, Mr. Mukesh Oza says ki, why 1,000? You will make it 5,000, we'll make it 10,000. That's the spirit of CSR. You have to convince the corporate ki aaj ye paisa api raha છે, it's their hard-earned money. They have to work hard. No corporate can earn profit without the hard work. જે એના જે પ્રોફિટ છે એમાંથી તમે શું ઇમ્પેક્ટ ક્રિએટ કરો છો, ઇફ યુ કેન જસ્ટિફાઈ, you can get the results. લોકો કહેતા હોય છે કે CSRમાં પૈસા નથી મળતા, તકલીફ છે, તે તકલીફ છે, કંપનીઓ સાંભળતી નથી, અરજીઓ કરે છે તો કોઈ ધ્યાન આપતા નથી. There are a lot of complaints. But just to say, it's up to you. આપ કેવી રીતે CSR હેન્ડલ કરો છો. I am giving you the exact figures from my balance sheet. કે જ્યારે અમે લોકો 2016માં we had only 1 crore 31 lakhs, and last year it was almost 9 crores. See the graph, it's going up. This year maybe 15 crores. See, એક જ સંસ્થા CSRમાંથી 10 કરોડ મેળવી શકતી હોય, ખર્ચ કરી શકતી હોય. There is no reason ki why you cannot do that. BP is just a very focused organization. We work only for people with disabilities. Where there are NGOs, we work for the broader areas, vast areas. આ શક્ય છે. But it's up to you કે તમે CSRને કેવી રીતે લો છો, કરો છો. And these are the real figures કે તમારે 1 કરોડમાંથી 6 વર્ષમાં you can reach 9 crore, you can target for 20 crores. It's possible. Now friends, જેમ વાત થઈ, સાવનભાઈ વાત કરી કે CSR કાયદો છે પણ આપણી તો લોહીમાં છે. ઇટ્સ એ પાર્ટ ઓફ અવર હેરિટેજ. જ્યારથી માનવતાનો વિકાસ થયા છે, there has been a CSR, and lot of companies in Gujarat, Lalbhai, Tata, Maflal, Wagh Bakri, Reliance have been doing CSR even without the law. But impetus came when the CSR came for the PSUs. They were supposed to spend 2%, Indian Oil, ONGC, Power Grid, and you'll be surprised that CSR was monitored by PM office. PM office ની મોનિટરિંગ થતી હતી. એ જ કારણ છે કે પબ્લિક સેક્ટરે before CS law came and after CS law, they spent the huge money. Lesson number 1, PSUs are a great source of money because their spending is being monitored at the PM office level. So whatsoever PSUs are nearby you, જે તમે ઓળખો છો, you can approach them like other corporate. They'll help you. અને CSR is not just a donation. It's not just a corporate giving you money. It's a philosophy. We want to develop our nation. We are poor people. We are disadvantaged people. We are people who are dying. People who are having lot of issues. તો એને મદદ મળે, એના વિકાસ થાય. અને બિઝનેસ ફક્ત પ્રોફિટ કરવા માટે નથી. Corporate is not to make the profit and raise the share value or raise the net worth and play in the market. They are also to take care of the human development, which is very important because we want to have corporate as a socially conscious corporate entity. They are part of our, and surprisingly, CSR term came from America. They are the American companies which started doing the CSR. I was in Israel last week. ઇઝરાયલમાં કાયદો નથી. There is no CSR in Israel. But there's a very good concept. સમજવા જેવું છે. They have JCR, Jewish Community Responsibility. Every Jewish firm in any part of the world, anywhere, will always get back to Israel and spend as much money as you need. But they say it's their responsibility. They may be America, Russia, or in Europe or anywhere, but they are responsible for their countrymen, their own land, and they come back and spend by billions. I've seen the organization. They're flooded with the money. But they have the concept of JSR. We could also something like that. And see, now very important thing, just to tell Parag Bhai and all the people here, CSR is not just a corporate giving the money. The philosophy is very different. અને મારે કોર્પોરેટ ફ્રેન્ડને વિનંતી છે કે આ ફક્ત એક કમિટીમાં ચેક પાસ કરીને કોઈને દાન આપવું ઇઝ નોટ CSR. Technically, our government, our system wants that corporate should participate in management of the NGOs. જે આપણી કોર્પોરેટ કંપનીઓ જે બહુ સક્સેસફુલ છે, જે શૂન્યમાંથી સર્જન કરે છે, who become multi-billionaires over the years because they have the acumen, they have the skill, they have the managerial capacity, they understand the system very well because they have grown at such a vast speed. તો આ લોકોની જે આવડત છે, આ લોકોની જે શક્તિ છે, આ લોકોની જે સામર્થ્ય છે, એ મેનેજમેન્ટ છે, why this can't be used for the NGOs? That is, so corporate people must not just give a check. They should participate in management of the project, monitoring of the project, impact assessment, guiding the NGOs, how to grow, how to build the capacity. So it's a two-way channel. NGOs should take CSR as an opportunity to take acumen, skill of the corporate, and corporate should share their strength, એની જે તાકાત છે, એની જે શક્તિ છે, જેને તે ગ્રો કરી શકે છે. Why can't they put that શક્તિ, તાકાત into growth of the human element? And in fact, why not the expertise, acumen, managed skill be used for a social cause? And all CSR giving corporate houses, I request them, don't just give the check. Don't complete the target of spending the CSR. You must tell the NGOs. And NGOs must be ready to accept that corporate will participate in management of those funds. Corporate will guide them how to become a stronger NGOs. I think that's the whole essence of CSR. Because NGOs ને પોતાનું દ્વાર ખોલવું પડશે. આપણે બંધ બારણામાં કંઈ ન થાય. આપણે ચાર દિવારી બંધ કરી દઈએ નહીં કોઈ કે અમે ગ્રેટ છીએ, અમે બધું કરીશું. No. We have to seek help of all those successful people who have made a big fortune in the corporate. They should come and help us in management. And just remember, as I said, I repeat, it's not a donation. Please, for God's sake, khali corporate check ape છે એવું નથી. It's a corporate's participation in the management, and for corporate, it's an additional responsibility. You have to walk a step further. You have to go and see the NGOs are managed better and they have access to better opportunity. And government also wants. There should be proper utilization of the funds. Check api dito, raat gayi, baat gayi. No. Every money has to be used for the purpose for which it is given in the right manner at the right time for the right beneficiaries. જ્યાં સુધી આપણે આ સ્પિરિટ નહીં આવે, આજે BPA has more than 45 CSR partners, highest for any NGO in the country. It's because we ensure that every single penny given by a corporate will be used for the purpose for it is given, without any service charge, without any saving, without any deduction. જ્યાં સુધી આ સ્પિરિટ નહીં આવે, અને we have to see that corporate જે technical support છે આપણને મળવું જોઈએ. And most important, you have to spend the money. It's not that कि पैसा दे दिया और जमा कर दिया. There's a time limit. Before 31st March of that year, the money has to be spent, utilization has to be given, and you have to give the list of beneficiary. You have to close the accounts unless it's a continuing project where you can scatter over a couple of years. And in case of unspent fund, it's a great problem for the corporate. If corporate has given you money and आपे खर्च नहीं કર્યા, you are not creating problem for yourself. તમે તમારા માટે નહીં, પર corporate માટે भी problem કરો છો. I'll come back on the last part. And as you know, It's 2% of the profit, we all know. I'm sure my other colleagues will share. And I want to emphasize કે આ મેન્ડેટરી છે, એમાં કોઈ ચોઈસ નથી. જે તમે CSR બ્રેકેટમાં ફોલ થતા હો તો CSR કરવું ફરજિયાત છે. there is no exemption of any time. કોર્પોરેટ માટે અને NGO માટે ખર્ચ કરવું ફરજિયાત છે. there is no exemption. And as I mentioned, corporate can spend money through their own foundation. They can form the foundation, Wagh Bakri Foundation, Adani Foundation, Reliance Foundation, Intas Foundation. They can spend. There's nothing wrong. I find it as a very good development. એ બહાને કોર્પોરેટ સેક્ટર બી NGO ચલાવતા થઈ જશે. એ બહાને એ લોકોને જે આવડત છે ડાયરેક્ટલી એની ફાઉન્ડેશન યુઝ કરી શકશે. વી શુડ વેલકમ દેટ. કોણ ખર્ચ કરે છે ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ નથી, કેટલું ખર્ચ થાય છે અને કયા પર્પઝ માટે ખર્ચ થાય છે, લાભાર્થી કોણ છે, દેટ ઇઝ મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ. સો ઇટ્સ અ વેરી વેલકમ સ્ટેપ. અને એના કારણે ઘણી લાર્જ ફાઉન્ડેશન્સ હેવ કમ અપ. And as I mentioned, I repeat that voluntary organization, implement organization, as someone said, must have the capacity on 3 dimensions. તમારા પાસે આવડત હોવી જોઈએ. How to seek the corporate fund, how to spend the corporate money, CSR money, and how to report back of that spending. All this triangle of 3 sequence, you must have the capacity. If you don't have the capacity, don't go for CSR. You will be creating problem for yourself and for the corporate. And if capacity nathi, I request AMA like this, have a special program. Call the NGOs in a Besado, like a school, like a college. Let's build their capacity. Let's motivate them. We may even have the joint people who work for a group of corporate NGOs and build the capacity. You must have the capacity is the first underlying factor. And there's a great penalty, I'll come back, on non-compliance on the corporate, and it affects the NGOs also. As I mentioned, you cannot carry forward unspent money. And to me, it's a great blessing of the corporate participation in the NGOs. And friends, as you know, there are a lot of foundations. I don't need to spend time on that. You all know a lot of foundations have come up, which is a very welcome step, because now a lot of reach is there. They're penetrating across the country to the rural areas, and they are all just for the NGOs. The biggest preferred area is the healthcare. A lot of money, highest money. Then education. Third is the rural development, Gramin Vikas, Mahila Sashakti-karan, watershed management, sanitation because of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, disaster relief because of COVID and earlier disasters, disability development. Surprisingly, I mean, it's very surprising that disability is not a clear part of the CSR Schedule 7. But as education, health, they are the cross-cutting areas. It's a matter of chance because disability NGOs are quite strong in this country. Disability has emerged as a very strong area under CSR, then PM Relief Fund and COVID relief. These are the areas. तुम्हारी NGO આ એરિયામાં કામ કરતી હોય તો કરો માંગતી હોય, આ તમારા માટે પ્રાયોરિટી એરિયા છે in the list of the corporate. CSR, what it means, I don't need to spend because you all are aware. And this also, again, we don't have to worry because 2% of the net profit, other speaker will be talking. And very important, no money can be spent without the trust or society or a Section 8 company. Money has to be ultimately spent only through trust or society or a non-profit company. Only exemption is it may be run by a group of people or run by the corporate itself. There's an option. But money cannot be spent by the company directly under any circumstances. It has to be spent only and only ultimately through NGO, society or a non-profit company. There's a condition, you should have 3 years record, and a CSR project has to be taken only through such entities which know how to utilize the funds. And there's a monitoring and evaluation. There should be collaboration between the various CSR activity, people who are doing activities. And there's a committee in every company. And there's a website in every company which you have to go and study and read and understand what they are doing. And friends, you'll be very happy. The CSR in this country is happening. But if you do CSR for your employees, there's not a CSR. And if you do CSR for your own activities, advertising or something which is the product of your company, that's not a CSR. and very good. Any political activity, if you govern a political party, that's not a CSR. These three are not the CSR. To safeguard the social development work, government has very clearly mentioned that these three are not the CSR. And now there's a new provision in the guidelines, જે લોકો guideline pursue કરે છે. Now the government has said that corporate can give preference to local areas and areas around that corporate. But this is not mandatory. You can do it anywhere in the country, but you should give preference to the local area. This is just a recommendation. So if you are close to a corporate, there are more chances that you'll get the money, but corporate can do it anywhere. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of obligation NGOs. મારા NGO friends માટે ખાસ વિનંતી કરવાની કે તમારા 3 yearનું ટ્રેક રેકોર્ડ હોય અને યુ કેન જસ્ટિફાય તમારી બેલેન્સ શીટ છે, રિસીપ્ટ એન્ડ પેમેન્ટ છે, ઇન્કમ ટેક્સ રિટર્ન ફાઇલ થઈ ગયા છે, સ્ટેટ્યુટરી કમ્પ્લાયન્સ પૂરા થઈ ગયા છે, તમારે CSR સર્ટિફિકેટ છે, નીતિ આયોગમાં રજિસ્ટ્રેશન છે, ATG છે, 12A છે, આ બધા ડોક્યુમેન્ટ હોય અને 3 વર્ષથી આપ કામ કરતા હો તો યુ આર એલિજિબલ ફોર CSR. એન્ડ દેન યુ હેવ ટુ વેરી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ, આઈ રિપીટ, તમારા કોઈ એક સ્ટાફની ક્ષમતાનો વિકાસ કરવો પડશે. કોઈ એક વ્યક્તિ એવા જોઈએ સિસ્ટમમાં કે જે એપ્લિકેશન લખી શકે, ફોલો કરી શકે, બધી કમ્પ્લાયન્સ પૂરી કરી શકે, પૈસા ખર્ચ કરી શકે, અકાઉન્ટિંગ કરી શકે, યુટિલાઇઝેશન બનાવી શકે, લિસ્ટ ઓફ બેનિફિશરી આપી શકે, વેબસાઇટ અપડેટ કરી શકે, ફેસબુક કરી શકે. ઓલ ધીઝ આર મેન્ડેટરી. એને કરવું બહુ જરૂરી છે. અને મને કહેતા કોઈ દુઃખ નથી. નીરજલાલ, વી હેવ બીન ડુઈંગ લોટ ઓફ વર્કશોપ ઓન સ્ટેટ્યુટરી કમ્પ્લાયન્સીસ. પાર્ડન મી, મોસ્ટ ઓફ NGOs are not up to date in statutory compliance. The CSR will not permit you to do that. यदि तुम्हारे CSR में पैसा चाहिए तो you have to fulfill statutory compliances to the extent of 100%, and then you have to identify such projects. Please understand it very carefully. You have to only such project જે તમે 31 માર્ચ પહેલાં પૂરા કરી શકો છો. ડોન્ટ ટેક એ પ્રોજેક્ટ જેમાં સ્પીલ ઓવર હોય અથવા મને જગ્યા નથી મળી, લાભાર્થી નથી મળ્યા, મેં કેમ્પ નથી કર્યા. This is not accepted. You have to take only such projects જે ટાઈમ બાઉન્ડ છે ને આ પૂરા કરી શકો છો. And you have to implement such project where you are willing to give in participation ઇન્વોલ્વમેન્ટ ઓફ કોર્પોરેટ. તમારે તૈયારી રાખવી પડશે, ક્યોંકि આ દાન નથી, આ CSR છે. તમારે તૈયારી રાખવી પડશે કે કોર્પોરેટ લોકો તમારા પ્રોજેક્ટ વહીવટમાં પાર્ટિસિપેટ કરશે, તમને ગાઈડ કરશે. જે આપને લાગતું હોય કે અમે તો ક્લોઝ ડોર એન્ટિટી છીએ, અમે કોઈને અલાઉ નથી કરતા. ફોર ગોડ સેક, યુ આર નોટ એલિજિબલ ફોર CSR. ડોન્ટ ટેક CSR, યુ ટેક અધર ડોનેશન. CSR નીડ્સ પાર્ટિસિપેશન ઓફ ધ કોર્પોરેટ. અને તમારે રેગ્યુલર રિપોર્ટ આપવી પડે, બિકોઝ કોર્પોરેટ હેઝ ટુ ઓલ્સો ફોલો ધ રિપોર્ટ. લિસ્ટ ઓફ બેનિફિશરી જેને તમે દાન આપ્યા છે વિથ ધ ડોક્યુમેન્ટ્સ. એન્ડ મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ 31 માર્ચ સુધી બધું ખર્ચ કરીને યુ હેવ ટુ ગિવ ધ UC upload on your website, and every chartered accountant has to upload on the special site. This is mandatory. And as I mentioned, all funds must be exhausted by 31st March. Even in a continuing project, you have to take only that part of the fund which you can spend by 31st March. This is very important. Now we come to bit corporate. Now there's an option that when the beginning of the year, you have to calculate your average profit of 3 years, because 2 years profit already you have. Third year you have to estimate. અને તમારે વર્ષની શરૂઆતમાં 3 વર્ષની એવરેજ કેટલી થાય છે on the estimate of the third year, that becomes your approximate CSR obligation, which you can modify by the end of the year, but it will give you an idea how much money you have to spend. And as I mentioned, જેટલા તમે calculate કર્યા છે, this money must be released out of your account and must be spent in the account of NGOs by 31st March. Both are the matching. Now there's a digital banking, you can't even hide it. So bank definitely will be visible what date you spend the money, what date NGOs have spent the money. So there has to be matching. You are releasing money before 31st March, they spending before 31st March, very important. And as I mentioned, you have to stick to Schedule 7. જે Schedule 7માં એક્ટિવિટી છે એના પ્રમાણે જ કરી શકાય. But there's one escape route. Anything which is similar to that, similar to Schedule 7 can also be done. It's not very rigid. It's not a watertight compartment કે આટલું જ કરવું છે. તમે એનાથી બહાર એટલું જઈ શકો કે જે Schedule 7 સાથે સુસંગત હોય, એની સાથે મેલ ખાતું હોય. અને for God's sake, select only such NGOs which have the capacity, which have the system, which have the accounting procedure, which use some software. Don't select NGO which are not able to handle your funds. they'll be creating problem for you and for the system as a whole. You have to be very careful. The NGOs are trustworthy, they are open, their systems are open to the world, they are willing to give your participation, and they have the capacity to spend the money and report back. Sometimes people, they are very good to NGO, they can spend the money, but they can't report back. They don't have the capacity, so that's what you have to see. Now, I come to a small case study. આ કેસ સ્ટડી તમારે ધ્યાનથી સાંભળવાની છે. I told Samanbhai we'll have a small discussion. આ case study becomes a discussion point. There's a corporate કે જેને 21-22માં વર્ષ ફાઇનાન્શિયલ 21-22માં 1 કરોડ ખર્ચ કરવાની ઓબ્લિગેશન હતી. They approached their CS and CA. They said કે આ તો પૈસા 21-22નું છે ને, આપણને પ્રોફિટ થવાનું છે, આપણે 22-23માં ખર્ચ કરી શકીશું. સ્મોલ એનોમલી, સ્મોલ લિમિટેશન કે 21-22નું પ્રોફિટ છે, આપણે 22-23માં ખર્ચ કરી દઈશું, વાંધો નહીં. This was the advice of the CSR CA, so they didn't spend the money. Then they realized in the month of August 22 कि we are supposed to spend 1 crore in the year 21-22, which we have not spent. What to do now? Then they discovered there was only 20 days available in the month of April that you can open an escrow account, deposit that money in that account, and spend in the next 3 years. If you don't spend, surrender to the government. That escape route was there, which option is gone because we are talking in the month of August. Now they discovered from the registrar of companies, ROC, if they have not spent this money, 1 crore, they have to pay a penalty of 1 crore. So their spend is 2 crores, 1 crore penalty and 1 crore again they have to spend. What to do? What do you think is the option? Month of August, last year money, unspent of 1 crore, not deposited in escrow account. What do you think? You all are expert. A company શું કરી શકે? Anybody? It's a real life situation. It's not a hypothetical. I'm talking something. Yes. વિજય તમને તો ખબર છે. If you don't mind, he knows the matter. Anybody else? Vijay bhai knows the matter. That's why I'm. No, it's obligatory for the corporate to utilize before 31st March of 2021, which they have not done. Yeah. It goes to the government. Yeah. Penalty goes to the government. 1 crore they allow you to spend after paying a penalty of 1 crore. And maybe it's not very clear, Vijay bhai, whether there's an interest thereon or not. That has to be still understood. To શું કરે? Sorry, I'm stopping Vijay bhai because he knows the matter. Anybody else? It's a real life situation. તમારે 1 કરોડ ખર્ચ કરવાનું તું કર્યો નથી, અત્યારે ઓગસ્ટ આવી ગયા છે, તો શું કરીશું? 1 crore આપી દઈએ પેનલ્ટી? Yes, madam. Can you stand up? Can somebody give the mic? Is mic available? हाँ जी. Sorry, madam. Can you say again? So everyone can listen.
Okay, fine. So basically, if you don't pay after August, you need to give a penalty. It is a penalty to corporates, and they have to give this funds to government, and they'll be using it for projects what they have defined up. And this is not applicable to only the corporate, but to the board members also. So board members are also liable for the penalty.
Yeah, that's there.
That's
But what to do now? How to come out of that? Pay 1 crore penalty or do something else?
Definitely, we will do that thing. But now in this case, you have to pay back. You can't do anything. If you have crossed the August.
No, I'm asking, what is the way out? Should they pay the penalty or there's a way out? That's a very important small underlying factor कि ऑगस्ट महीनाમાં 1 કરોડની પેનલ્ટીની જવાબદારી આવી છે for the previous year. કંપની 1 કરોડ પેનલ્ટી પે કરી દે, કોઈ બીજો રસ્તો છે?
फिलहाल तो guidelines में rules में I have not studied the things. There's no rule I think this is a penalty to be done. Probably I know that way. Penalty is the last one. August cross कर देते तो penalty लग जाती है आपको.
No, they are liable to pay penalty.
And
there's
there's
no
a
way
case
out.
has come out where MCA has declared the things. There are 3 companies who have been given the penalties now.
Okay. Anybody else who can say how to escape from this penalty? Any way out? Because that's the understanding of CSR.
Please, sure.
Andy?
This is before August you are asking.
They are in the month of August.
They are in the month of August.
See, August is very crucial. See, they come in the month of August of the next year without spending money, and pardon if any one of you has done that type of situation. No, you can't convert it. That could have been ongoing project, meaning is you sanction it, but in ongoing also that part has to be spent before 31st March. You don't have to sanction again and again. Yeah, that's right. They have to put the money in the escrow account. Sorry, sir. Can you take the mic?
In that case, if it is an ongoing project, then the time limit is
It was not an ongoing
spend it
project.
to 30th September instead of 30th
No, actually, now you cannot sanction in August ongoing project of last year because you have not done the accounting transaction at all. In ongoing project also, money has to be deposited in the escrow account. Money cannot be carried forward
But
in
only
the balance of the company.
Agreed.
Company money has to go out by 31st March under any circumstances.
Absolutely.
Ongoing or regular,
Agreed.
doesn't matter. Money has to go out.
the only
In
difference
ongoing,
is-
money goes to escrow account. In regular project, money goes to NGO.
The only difference is, sir, that in case it is an ongoing project and if you are not
They
spent till
cannot.
31st
It's
of
already
March,
done. The
then
31st
you
is
need
gone.
to transfer it to unspent account till 30th of September, sir.
No, sorry. You have to pay the penalty. You spend it, but you have to pay 100% penalty, and maybe Vijay Bhai will clarify later. Interest thereon. Anybody? Any guess?
Need to submit in government account before 30th September.
Which account?
Government fund.
Which one? Who said that? Who used the word PM fund?
Companies Act says that
Anybody
it should
who
be
says this
deposit.
PM fund, can you stand up? Stand up. Madam, I think use the word term PM fund. Can you stand up? Or anybody use the term PM fund, please stand up. अब खड़े हो जाइए. We want to honor, yes, both of you. Pansan? PM, yeah, very right. Kindly give a clap to both these people. Thank you. That's the only option today. Thanks, Vijay. You know the option, that's why now you can speak. That's the only option. Anji. Pankaj Bhai clarified, you have to deposit money in the PM fund, Ganga, Swachh Ganga fund, or any other fund equivalent to that. Now, there's a catch. Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vijay. There's a catch. And now, Vijay, you can speak.
Thank you, sir. The thing is, as per the Companies Act, there are two concepts. One is ongoing project, and other is other than ongoing project. So when you are sitting in the month of August, ongoing project option is already gone for you, because in that case you have to transfer the amount in unspent account by 30th of April. So what the other participant already mentioned, that it has to be transferred to a government specified fund, not only in the PM relief fund or PM cares fund, but there are other options which has been given by the government under Schedule 7 of the Companies Act. So you can opt any of those options, and you have to transfer that amount by 30th of September to the government specified fund. That is the way out in such situation to get out of the penalty for the corporate as well as for the board of directors and KMPs who are also liable in such situation where the amount has not been spent in the month of August. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. See, there's a catch. There's a beautiful catch. Please understand very carefully. Even PM fund or any other fund under Schedule 7, sir, any fund, it has to be by 30th of September. If you jump these two deadlines of 20 days in April and then 30th of September, pardon me, there's no option. You have to pay a penalty of 100% on your CSR obligation, and director is also liable. What is the director's liability? He had to be established. Interest liability yet to be established. For God's sake, whatsoever you have calculated for a particular year, please spend it. Even if it's an ongoing project or a new project or a first-time project, money has to go out of your account, either to the NGO are in an ongoing project to the escrow account before 20th of April of the following month. There is no other option, and this government has done very smartly. બહુ સ્માર્ટલી કર્યું છે કે કોઈ કંપની કોઈ બી પ્રોટેક્ટ હેઠળ ગમે તે રીતે અનસ્પેન્ડ પૈસા ના રાખી શકે, અને આ કેસ હાઇપોથેટિકલ નથી. This is a real life case, and thanks to Vijay, we could so that company could save the penalty by immediately transfer money to PM Relief Fund. So friends, with this, just a few photographs that you have to keep on taking documentary evidence of everything you do. Just to show you that whenever there is a CSR, you see that that's documented well. There are recordings, there are list of beneficiaries, there are guests, and there's somebody to vouch for, money was spent. And these are all beautiful photographs of number of projects, but all disability related. This could be any other project. And with this, I wish you good luck and enjoy. And I conclude by saying that to me, CSR is a great opportunity. To corporate, CSR is a great human development opportunity. To all of you, it's a challenge. How to meet the CSR obligation. If you are smart enough, you will meet it. If BP can meet obligation for 45 CSR partners, you can also meet it. There's no reason. With this, I thank you all of you, and I'm sorry I have to take your leave. Something very important is happening. A funding organization which was funding us for many years, today will be developing a strategy for that organization. So there is a commitment to develop a strategy for a funding organization. I'll take your leave. I wish you all the best. Sorry, Parag, I won't be able to listen to you, but I'll take it from the recording. Have a nice day. God bless you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Punani sir. I think we pulled him out. He was unable to commit, but thanks you so much that you made it. And absolutely, I would say enlightening, without a doubt. Because so many things, sir, that you mentioned, is something to take home for every NGO and also to an extent by the corporates. But yeah, the take home for the NGOs is that you have to have the capacity to raise, which includes your tax compliance, is also includes your track record also. You have to have the capacity to spend, and then you should ensure that you have the right methodology to report. So raise, spend and report. If unless that NGO is prepared and ready for it, they would not be effective. And I would certainly compliment Parag Bhai here for two things. One is, of course, under the auspices of Work Bakri AMA Center for Governance, apart from the governance projects, this is a very important governance. But more than that, his point of view, he tells me, Sawan Bhai, tumne khabar hai, so many NGOs, they approach us. But do they know what the challenges are? It is not about donation, I want a donation, vapriyu. So it was his brain child that converted into that this is such an important CSR. Secondly, insisted that make sure that we have the relevant right people. So, and I was so happy, and I must compliment Unmesh when he comes back after seeing of Bhushan Bhai, that there's a proper combination of corporates and the NGOs also. And Bhushan Bhai used the word partners, 45 partners. So actually it is known as implementing partners. So NGOs are not just where the money is given and then money is utilized. It is partners, and then there is a lot of challenge in terms of the compliances. Otherwise the corporate would have an issue if the money is not utilized within the time for the purpose and reported as an impact of measurement. Very keen to hear Parag Bhai. Parag Bhai, we look forward to your views on what you have been doing much before also and then after the regime of the mandatory law, and what as Work Bakri we take home in terms of as a corporate obligation, how we understand the challenges also. Over to you, Parag Bhai. Somebody will help. There's a presentation, right? Karelu se load.
Thank you, Sawan Bhai, and good morning, Pankaj ji. So nice to meet you. Winter has finally arrived since couple of days in Ahmedabad. I was in Delhi yesterday, and I was missing winter of Ahmedabad. I think today is a very important day wherein AMA has done a wonderful job in putting together both sections of the donor and the donee. And I believe that as Waghbakri Tea Group, we are obligated to share some of our experiences. Before I do that, a quick start by giving a snapshot on the CSR journey in India. While I am the fourth generation and my great grandmother started our CSR journey in Durban, South Africa, the CSR journey of India is pretty recent. In 2009, there were government voluntary guidelines on CSR. 2014, like Punani ji said, there was a mandatory provision under the CSR for under the Companies Act in 2013. There was a comply and explain approach, quite open-ended. There were various amendments from time to time, but post-COVID, there was a comply and penal approach. The scenario pre and post-COVID provision under law, there was in the pre-CSR law, there was a corporate philosophy which was very unorganized. The post-CSR law says that it is now supposed to be organized, effective, result-oriented, and highly impactful. Here, the important word is impactful. The rationale behind the CSR provision under the law is that we have to use our corporate management skills for nation building and social good. How the CSR law and the compliance helped in doing social good in a sustainable and a very impactful way is very important. Like, most of you must be aware, the minimum spending requirement for a certain class of companies is 2% of an average net profit immediately preceding 3 financial years. Recommending CSR projects, review, monitoring by a dedicated CSR committee of the board, and having at least one independent director as part of CSR committee to bring objectivity and independence is very important. Pankaj ji, I would like to tell that at our Waghbakri Tea Group, the largest and the most attended meetings are of the CSR committee. My elders, they would rather prefer to sit for 2 hours in a CSR committee meeting than to attend, board meetings where, financials are being discussed. So we are very blessed that we have the right genes and the right people who have motivated us since childhood. Thank you. And it's a very formal process. The CSR projects have to be presented. The accountability has to be the similar accountability wherein the board approves or disapproves projects basis, what is being promised and what is being done on an impact assessment. The utilization report to ensure end use of funds and certification thereof by the CFO of the company is also very important. Our CFO is sitting here, and along with him, in the last 3 years, we have faced many issues with many NGOs wherein the project is good, but when we start by saying that there has to be a MOU that is supposed to be signed, there has to be an assurance, there has to be an impact assessment study. The best of the NGOs say that, we have never done this and why is it required? So then we have to politely regret. It's very important to make CSR disclosures as part of the board report and annual accounts of companies to bring transparency. Like Punani ji said, there are various penal provisions, and I now, as we meet more and more people, I get a lot of things that I had to pay 5 lakhs, I had to pay 20 lakhs because my CA did not say this. This is a very simple law. You can't blame it on your CA. I think everyone can understand what the law tells, and everyone can ensure that it is being followed. There are various focus areas of the government, like we discussed, on which it can be sent. The Waghbakri Foundation team is here, and I am proud to say that we are very deeply rooted. That as sincere we are about our business, we are very sincere about CSR. Our company and our family firmly believes that the service to mankind is service to God. Company is committed to conduct its business operation in a very environment friendly and socially responsible manner. Our factories that were built 20-30 years ago were being built on sustainable architecture, use of natural light, water, solar, etc. We just set up one of the largest solar plants above the Blind People's Association to ensure that they don't have to pay any bills to torrent power for their routine use. So sustainability and helping the right people is something that motivates us. Like I said, my grandmother started the Vasant Narayan Desai Multiple Charitable Trust, set up in memory of founder of the group, Narandas Desai and Vasantba, his wife. And ever since then, we have been generously donating to the downtrodden people. The Vagbakri Foundation focus areas are education, healthcare, vocational skill training, women empowerment, environment sustainability, hunger eradication, and finally relief to the poor. These are the areas wherein we work quite passionately. In the year 2019, we separately formally formed the Vagbakri Foundation, and I can proudly say that in a short time we have expanded through this foundation our reach from Gujarat to now Rajasthan, UP, Uttarakhand, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Last month, my parents celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary by donating vans in a place called Varanasi, which is, although a very historical and a very important place in India, you have to see to believe the amount of poverty in which people live and the amount of lack of basic amenities which their next generation is getting. So the Vagbakri Foundation this is something that we are very proud. This year we gave 12 food distribution vehicles across India, serving 6,000 plus meals every day. During the pandemic, we served 90,000 meals to the affected families. 3,600 happiness kits were distributed during the pandemic. Let me share a short film to show you that.
Hare Krishna. I am thankful really to Vagbakri group of companies because they have been always sensitive to the need of the economy. So Vagbakri, we have always been seeing that they are sensitive to the needs of the community along with their other activities. So we have been serving with the support of Vagbakri more than 1 lakh meals to the needy people across Gujarat in various locations, distributing more than 3,500 happiness box now to these children. So the program has already commissioned and it is very successfully going on, and lots of gratitudes to them and blessings to them by these children, and I am thankful to them for coming forward to support this cause at the crucial hour when it is very badly required. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
This was in the middle of the pandemic, and it was with the Akshay Patra Foundation. For those who are not aware, the Akshay Patra Foundation is in the business of giving hot, better than home cooked quality meals to most of the kids as midday meals who are in government schools, and they require it the most. Very recently, we started the Vagbakri Scholarship Program, in which we did a lot of research and we found out that a lot of MSMEs have lost their jobs or their vocationals, or they come from society where they can't afford a higher education today. So as part of our commitment to education, we gave ads in all the leading newspapers of Gujarat, and we invited all the people who wanted to do a good higher education basis their own track record of a good academia, and we committed 40 lakhs for the first cause. I am happy to tell you that all the students that they came, they impressed us. We had a third party monitoring, an online mechanism, wherein it was a very rigorous exercise but a very time bound one, and my team at the foundation, they really met all the students, tried to find out that are they really going to be supported by their family when they do this kind of education, because most of these programs are 4-year plus of education. And I am happy to say that the money is being disbursed, and we are already talking as to next year how much we want to increase this 40 lakhs to. It's a very scientific process, and there are 7 different streams in which the students are going to be educated. So very fulfilling. We also have a huge commitment to the daycare centers for the differently abled. In Kheda district, we run 3 daycare centers, and 100 plus children we provide life skill training, physiotherapy and other treatments which is a must for their day-to-day working. This directly impacts the lives of the young children for their future. One such example I would like to share. There is a small kid, and how he was born with a leg deformity and foot abnormality affecting his body movements, and how in 3 years, due to physiotherapy and proper regular care, he has been able to walk again. So this is excellent. All the NGOs, I must compliment, most of them do a great job, and it would be a dream come true if companies like us can come together with them and do a proper 3-year, 5-year commitment, so that we can see impact and life-changing incidents, which will be, an inspiration for others to also do the same. Also, today healthcare is becoming more and more expensive, and rural people have hardly any idea as to what's, how they can afford such expensive healthcare. So we have tied up with a group of young doctors. We have donated mobile medical vans, and these vans, they move in rural areas of Ahmedabad and Kheda district. The challenge here is that most of the healthcare symptoms need to be at an early detection stage. So every month 600 to 700 patients in 30 villages, they don't know what's happening, but they say the health has deteriorated. So this we call as non-communicable diseases. So good doctors go and they give them proper treatment for basic things like diabetes, blood pressure, cataract, etc. Just a small film to show.
मेरा नाम भारती बहन है। मेरे पति का नाम विजय भाई है। मेरे पति नमकीन बनाकर बेचते हैं और मैं घर काम करती हूँ। मुझे 3 साल से डायबिटीज़ है। लॉकडाउन की वजह से हमारा धंधा बिल्कुल ही बंद हो गया था। पहले हम बाहर से दवाई लेते थे, पर इसमें बहुत खर्च होता था। जब से पता चला कि यहाँ दवाई मिलती है, तब से मैं यहीं से दवाई लेती हूँ। इससे मुझे बहुत फ़ायदा हुआ है।
भारती बहन जैसे हजारों लोगों तक स्वास्थ्य की ऐसी श्रेष्ठ सुविधा वाघ बकरी फाउंडेशन के सहयोग से संजीवनी हेल्थ एंड रिलीफ कमेटी के माध्यम से पहुंच रही है।
मेरे ससुर को 2 साल पहले लकवा हो गया था और मेरी सास को भी वैसे ही हुआ। तब से वो दोनों चल फिर नहीं सकते। इनकी दवाइयाँ भी हमें यहीं से मिलती है। उन्हें भी इस दवाई से बहुत फायदा हो रहा है।
अपने परिवार के स्वास्थ्य के लिए भारती बहन को मिली इस छोटी सी सहायता ने उनकी बड़ी चिंता दूर की है। आने वाले कल की आशा समान बच्चे, उनकी अच्छी शिक्षा और प्रतीक्षा कर रहा सुनहरा भविष्य बस ज्यादा दूर नहीं है। वाघ बकरी फाउंडेशन, सामाजिक उत्तरदायित्व की उत्कृष्ट परंपरा।
So here the challenge is that, when you go to people's homes, that's when you can really help them. These people are not used to going to doctors or traveling long distances, but they also need us. Also, one more thing which we are very proud of is that in Ahmedabad, Kartikeya bhai used to run the Snake Foundation, and during COVID it was completely closed down, not visited. They ran out of funds, etc. Pre-COVID, around 100,000 plus visitors used to visit, and they had a dire need to renovate and remake the Snake Foundation with a leading architect who was also a global architect in animal care, etc. So then we said that let us see how we can do it, because as a city we need to have such enclosures and such places where children gain knowledge from a young age. So I think that was a big message as to how important nature is in our life, because we seem to have forgotten nature.
पंखियों की मधुर आवाज, प्राकृतिक पर्यावरण और चैन के पल, ये है सुंदरवन।
शहर में अब नेचर एक्सप्लोर करना बहुत डिफ़िकल्ट है, क्योंकि अब सिटी में ऐसी जगह बहुत कम है, और सुंदरवन बहुत एक अच्छा जगह है शहर में। नेचर एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं, बर्ड्स, रेप्टाइल्स सब एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं।
सीमेंट कंक्रीट से घिरे अहमदाबाद शहर के मध्य में सैटेलाइट रोड पर एक छोटा सा जंगल। बच्चों के लिए तो यह पसंदीदा जगह है।
मेरा नाम यज्ञ पारिक है। मुझे यहाँ कोबरा और अन्य सांप देखना अच्छा लगता है, इसीलिए मैं अपने भाई बहन और दोस्तों के साथ यहाँ आता हूँ। मुझे यहाँ खेलना भी बहुत अच्छा लगता है। यहाँ पर स्नेक शो में मुझे एक बार सांप को हाथ में पकड़ने का भी मौका मिला था।
सुंदरवन की सबसे बड़ी विशेषता है यहाँ स्थित स्नेक पार्क। विभिन्न प्रकार के सांपों की प्रजाति के साथ यह देश के अग्रणी स्नेक पार्कों में से एक है। यहाँ सांपों के लिए बने शीशे के घर या स्नेक एनक्लोजर को मरम्मत की तत्काल आवश्यकता थी और यहाँ भी वाघ बकरी फाउंडेशन ने अपनी सामाजिक जिम्मेदारी निभाते हुए पहल की और स्नेक एनक्लोजर के नवीनीकरण में आर्थिक रूप से योगदान दिया। अब यहाँ सांपों की विभिन्न प्रजातियां सुरक्षित और अच्छी तरह से रह सकती हैं और लोग बिना डरे सांपों को देख और जान सकते हैं।
हम बुक्स में और वो सब में तो बर्ड्स और स्नेक्स और वो सब बताते हैं, पर जब हम उसको एक्चुअली दिखाएंगे तो उसको पता चलेगा कि हाँ ये चीज़ है, जिंदा है, तो दिमाग में अलग ही इमेज क्रिएट करेगा और उसको याद भी ज़्यादा रहेगा। तो ये जो रेप्टाइल्स का सेक्शन है उसमें स्नेक्स और वो सब, तो उसकी वैरायटीज़ और वो सब बहुत अच्छा है। तो पूरा जो सेक्शंस है उन्होंने अच्छे से मैनेज डेवलप किए हैं।
सांप हमारे इकोसिस्टम तथा पर्यावरण का एक महत्वपूर्ण हिस्सा है और इसके संरक्षण के लिए वाघ बकरी फाउंडेशन द्वारा दिया गया योगदान अद्वितीय है। वाघ बकरी फाउंडेशन, सामाजिक उत्तरदायित्व की उत्कृष्ट परंपरा।
Thank you. So, in the end, some takeaways I would like to share. I think to undertake CSR projects, programs, they need to be sustainable and can impact so that they can impact a large section of the society. The law related to CSR has evolved a lot in last about a decade, and now it has reached a very mature stage. And there is, I believe, my message to the governments or through you is now there is less rule for more regulation, because I get so many corporates who say that, the fun part is missing now, due to compliances. Corporates have also adopted CSR as a part of their operational plan for every year. In fact, just as we have budgetary meetings for our sales and our marketing, we also have budgetary meetings for our CSR with our team. And I believe CSR is something that can bring in a large impact if two minds meet, if the giver and the doer are working in the same direction. The social impact in our country needs to be much larger. I think we have now come out under the leadership of Mr. Modi. We have come out of a time when we used to just give subsidies and forget about it. Now we are looking at a big social change wherein highly impactful work is being done, and we should as corporates be a part of it. I believe CSR is a great opportunity to create a Naya Bharat. I remember, when I used to go overseas for study or to travel, India didn't have a good name for CSR. Today, in most of the international conferences I go, people look up to India, even for the CSR laws. So many countries don't have such laws. Like Punani ji said, the Jewish people still are on, like we have a Gujarati social responsibility, they have a Jewish social responsibility. But I think a country as large in India actually needs a law to create an impactful change, which is a Naya Bharat. And bringing corporate philanthropy under the ambit of law has made it very effective and very impactful. Wider participation of corporates, it helped in reaching and uplifting a larger section of society and helps government in nation building to create a Naya Bharat. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Parag bhai. I think in the first place, wonderful presentation, so well articulated. It covers absolutely everything that a corporate needs to do, from the governance to allocation to impact assessment. and presented in a nice way, including the videos which were certainly engaging. So certainly the governance that you're doing, there's a CSR committee, and then you said that the attendance is as high or highest, and then people spend at the top level the 2-hour meetings for ensuring that the policy allocation, everything in, and then naturally it would go to the board also for with the recommendation. The allocation which I could see, number of them, from diversity to education to healthcare and that sector. So that also Schedule 7, as was discussed by Punani sir, that also is taken care of, that how you ensure that there's a focused discussion from the corporate point of view. And the impact, when you talk about just moving out of the whole electricity invoice bill for an NGO, or when you talk about 1 lakh meals, this is something which is phenomenal. So that impact that we could see, and I was very happy to that there is a fun part of it also. If it is too regulated, it would not be. So there's a passion involved. So it is not just about that mandatory provision, it is also about the motive and the philosophy. More than a policy, it is about a philosophy that management has. So thank you so much, Parag Bhai. Anybody has any question for Parag Bhai, or otherwise we can go to have a break, then have Divyang is here, we will have the compliance from Deloitte partner, and then we'll have a panel discussion between NGO. But Unmesh Bhai, you and your team certainly deserves compliments, that very well balanced registration, corporates and this, and that's what I mentioned, but then you were seeing of Bhushan Bhai, so I wanted to repeat that. So any questions, anybody? Yeah, we can take 1 or 2 questions and then break for, yes please, just one, and then we can take another question. In the interest
Good morning
of time.
and thank you. It was a fantastic presentation. I represent a corporate here. And Parag Bhai, I wanted to understand what is the modus operandi of how does it operate? So are you tying up with government agencies or NGOs or individuals? What is your strategy and how does it fits into your scheme of things?
Yeah, so good question. A lot of NGOs, we know them since so many years. We are doing it for more than 3 decades in India. And we have a direct mechanism wherein they first send us a mail on their project, etc. Then we have a foundation team and a CSR committee which screens all such appeals and requests. One shortlisted, just like any other business activity, we call them for a proper pitch/discussion, and we allocate up to 2 hours to each one of them. And very senior people from my company, they sit in this meeting to make sure that it's properly evaluated. A lot of NGOs ask me, and they are shocked that you have so much time, we are running a business and you have so much time to listen to us. But yes, we have. Once it is shortlisted, then it goes up to the CSR committee. The CSR committee puts in their questions, or if required, they themselves visit the NGO wherever in India they are, whatever work they are doing, and like any other business plan, then it goes for allocation. So it's a very simple process, but it's a very formal process.
Yeah. One question here, please. Somebody can give the mic. Thanks.
મારો સવાલ પરાગભાઈ આપને અથવા પંકજભાઈને પણ એડ્રેસ કરી શકે.
Mic રાખશો સાથે? You can. No, but if you can keep it will be easier.
ભણવામાં એવું આવતું હતું કે સબસ્ટેન્સ પ્રિવેલ ઓવર ફોર્મ. 6 વર્ષથી મારું એક NGO છે, મુક્તિ ધ કિડ્સ ફાઉન્ડેશન, અને હું જાતે જ વીકેન્ડ્સ ઉપર બાળકો સાથે કામ કરું છું. આઈ એમ એ પ્રેક્ટિસિંગ ચાર્ટર્ડ એકાઉન્ટન્ટ સિન્સ 91. એટલે ભણવામાં આવ્યું હતું અને એ મેં ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટ કર્યું મારા NGOમાં, પણ હું 2 દિવસ આપી શકું છું. CSRમાં વાંચ્યું અને સાંભળ્યું કે ઇટ્સ અ ફિલોસોફી. આપ 3 ડિકેડ્સથી કરો છો, લો હમણાં આવ્યો. સબસ્ટેન્સ ઓવર ફોર્મ પ્રિવેલ કેવી રીતે રહી શકે એની ગવર્મેન્ટમાં ઇન ટ્રુ સેન્સ કોઈ ફિલોસોફી છે કે જે વર્ક કરતી હોય અને જેમાં નંબર્સ આર નોટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ પર ઇમ્પેક્ટ દેખાતો હોય અથવા તો અનુભવાતો હોય કોમન પીપલને. જો એવું થશે તો આ બહુ મોટું કામ છે ભારત માટે, અને જરૂર પણ છે, કારણ કે આપણે ત્યાં પોવર્ટી પણ છે અને અંડર પ્રિવિલેજ લોકો ખૂબ છે. તો આ કદાચ ક્વેશ્ચન નથી, એક ફિલિંગ છે, પણ જો એને એડ્રેસ કરી શકો તો એઝ એન એનજીઓ ઓર એઝ એ કન્સલ્ટન્ટ કોર્પોરેટ્સમાં આનું ધ્યાન રાખી શકાય.
Very nice questions you posed, and at government ગુજરાત CSR ઓથોરિટી એસ્ટાબ્લિશ કરવાનો મૂળ હેતુ જે હતું કે આપણે જે કોર્પોરેટ ગુજરાતમાં કામ કરે છે એમને પ્રોપર મદદ મળે, એમના જે કોન્ટ્રીબ્યુશન છે એ નાણાકીય જે સહાય લોકો સુધી પહોંચાડવાની છે એ એકદમ સારી રીતે પહોંચે. સારી રીતે એટલે કે એ જે પણ આપણે કામ કરીએ છીએ એમાં ક્વોલિટીથી કામ થાય. એટલે કે આપણે ફક્ત ડિસ્ટ્રીબ્યુશન જે કરીએ વેલફેર ટાઈપની અપ્રોચ ના રાખીને એક સિસ્ટમિક તરીકેથી 1 વર્ષ 2 વર્ષ 3 વર્ષ લાંબા ગાળાના પ્રોજેક્ટ, એમાં આઉટકમ કેવી રીતે એનો મેજરમેન્ટ થાય. એટલે ગુજરાત CSR ઓથોરિટીમાં અમે જે પણ કોર્પોરેટ અથવા તો PSUના જે પ્રોજેક્ટ, અમે કોર્પોરેટ અને PSU બે માટે અમલીકરણ સંસ્થાનો પણ એ અમલીકરણ સંસ્થા તરીકે પણ ભાબરૂ લઈએ છીએ એમના CSR કામકાજમાં. એટલે એ જે પણ પ્રોજેક્ટ અમે કરીએ છીએ એ એક સોલ્યુશનની વાત કરે છે. એટલે જે પ્રોબ્લેમ્સ આપણે યર્સથી કહીએ છીએ કે એ પ્રોબ્લેમ સોલ્વ થતા નથી, એમાં એક્સપેરિમેન્ટ હોય છે મલ્ટિપલ ટાઈપના. કે એક એક્સપેરિમેન્ટ, એક દાખલો આપને આપું છું કે આપણે સેનિટેશન જે સુવિધાઓ છે અત્યારે રાજ્યમાં એક ગમે તે સિટી એરિયામાં એ પ્રોપરલી મેન્ટેન થતી નહીં. એટલે અમે એક સેનિટેશનનો એક મોડલ તરીકેનો એક દાખલારૂપ પ્રોજેક્ટ તૈયાર કર્યું, એને અમલીકરણ કર્યું. એ પ્રોજેક્ટ હાલમાં 3-4 વર્ષથી અમલમાં છે. એ 2-3 લોકેશન ઉપર, સુરતમાં પણ છે, ભરૂચમાં પણ છે, અત્યારે રાજકોટમાં પણ એક નવું શરૂ થશે. એમાં જે T3 એરપોર્ટ, મોટા ભાગે મને લાગે દિલ્હી એરપોર્ટ આપણે વિઝિટ કર્યું છે, અને T3 એરપોર્ટની જે લોન્ચની ફેસિલિટી છે એ લેવલની ફેસિલિટી અમે ગ્રાઉન્ડ ઉપર કમ્યુનિટી જે સિટીઝન જે ડેલી કમ્યુટ કરે છે એને આપવા માગીએ છીએ. હવે એનો જે કોસ્ટ બેનિફિટ એનાલિસિસ છે એ છે કે અમે 50 થી 60 લાખ જે એનો ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર છે વન ટાઈમ એ કોઈ કંપની પાસેથી લઈએ, અને હવે એની દર મહિનાની જે અર્નિંગ છે ઇટ ગોઝ અપ ટુ 1 લાખ રૂપીસ, અને એના મેન્ટેનન્સ ઉપર જે ખર્ચો આવે છે મારો એ 40,000 મંથલી જેવું આવે છે. એટલે ઇટ બીકેમ એન અર્નિંગ મોડલ. તો જે આપ ઇમ્પેક્ટ અને ક્વોલિટી અને લોંગ ટર્મ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટીની જે આપ મેન્શન કર્યું કે આપણે કેવી રીતે ક્વોલિટીની વાત કરીએ, હવે ટાર્ગેટ એ છે કે ગુજરાતના દરેક સ્ટેટ હાઈવે ઉપર, દરેક નેશનલ હાઈવે ઉપર જ્યાં કંપનીઓ છે આવા આપણે નાના નાના રેસ્ટરૂમ કોમ્પ્લેક્સ ઊભા કરીએ. શી લોન્જનો એક નવો કોન્સેપ્ટ અત્યારે અમે કોર્પોરેશન સાથે, સાહેબ અમારા ચેરમેન સાહેબ અત્યારે હવે કોર્પોરેશનમાં છે MC ચીફ તરીકે, કમિશનર તરીકે. એટલે અમે શી લોન્જ તૈયાર કરવા માગીએ છીએ અમદાવાદના વિવિધ એરિયામાં. જ્યારે બહેનો જે કામકાજી બહેનો છે એ ફિલ્ડમાં જતી હોય ત્યારે પ્રોપર સિટિંગ એરિયા ના હોય એમના માટે કોફી શોપ. એટલે એક એવો કોર્નરની અમે કોન્સેપ્ટલાઇઝેશન કર્યું છે કે એક ટ્રાન્સપરન્ટ વોલમાં એક પ્રીફેબ સ્ટ્રક્ચર તરીકેની એક વ્યવસ્થા હોય જેમાં બહેનો જઈ શકે, એમનો કમ્પ્યુટર ચાર્જ કરી શકે, થોડું રીડિંગ લાઇબ્રેરી ટાઈપની વ્યવસ્થા હોય, સાહેબની વાઘબકરીની એક લોન્જ પણ હોય ત્યાં સાઈડમાં. એટલે એ પ્રકારની એક સિટી એરિયામાં એક વ્યવસ્થા. એટલે કમ્યુનિટી અર્બન અથવા તો રૂરલ એ જે કન્વેન્શનલ પ્રોબ્લેમ જે આપણા છે એમાં CSRના સોલ્યુશન અમે આઈડેન્ટિફાઈ કરીએ છીએ યુઝિંગ CSR ફંડ એન્ડ બાય ડોક્યુમેન્ટિંગ, બાય પ્લાનિંગ ઇફેક્ટિવલી એન્ડ બાય મેજરિંગ ધ પ્રોગ્રેસ. અમુક પ્રોજેક્ટ અમે એડોપ્ટ કર્યા હતા જે ફ્યુચરમાં માનો નાના કોન્ટ્રીબ્યુશન થતા એમનામાં એ જે આપણે એક્સપેક્ટ કર્યા રિઝલ્ટ ના આવે તો પણ એને ડોક્યુમેન્ટ કરીએ.
થેન્ક યુ.
I would just like to add that જે તમે કમ્યુનિટી ફિલિંગ અને તમને જે ભણવામાં આવ્યું એ જ બધાને ભણવામાં આવ્યું છે. અમારે કોઈ બી ટાઈમે લગભગ 20 પ્રોજેક્ટ ભારતમાં ચાલતા હોય અને એમાં જે લોકો જોડાય છે એ અદ્ભુત છે. ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ, વારાણસીમાં જે હમણાં જ અમે લાસ્ટ મંથ કર્યું એમાં અમારો નાનો દુકાનદારથી માંડીને અમારો ડિસ્ટ્રીબ્યુટર કે અમારા વેન્ડર એ લોકો પોતે જાય અને અમને ફોટા મોકલે કે આ કામ સરસ થાય છે. કેટલીય જગ્યાએ મેડિકલ વાનો રવિવારે જાય છે. અમારા ડિસ્ટ્રીબ્યુટરો, દુકાનદારો જેને કોઈ એવો ડાયરેક્ટ સંપર્ક કંપની જોડે બી નથી, એને એમ છે કે મારે હું જે આ ચા વેચું છું આટલું સરસ કામ કરે છે તો મારે જવું જોઈએ, અને આઈ વિલ મેક શ્યોર કે જે લાસ્ટ એન્ડ કનેક્ટિવિટી છે એ એસ્ટાબ્લિશ થવી જોઈએ. એટલે ઘણું વાઇડ બેઝ થઈ શકે. થેન્ક યુ.
વી કેન જસ્ટ ટેક અ 1 minute ક્વેશ્ચન અને પછી વી બ્રેક ફોર.
ગુડ મોર્નિંગ. ગુજરાત CSR ઓથોરિટીનું એવું કોઈ પ્લાનિંગ છે કે જે ભારત સરકારની ન્યૂ એજ્યુકેશન પોલિસી આવી છે એને કમ્પેર ટુ અધર સ્ટેટ્સ વી કેન ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટ એઝ અર્લી એઝ પોસિબલ વિથ ધ કોર્પોરેટ્સ?
એકચ્યુઅલી એજ્યુકેશન ડિપાર્ટમેન્ટ સાથે અમે રેગ્યુલર કામ કરીએ છીએ અને એમની જે પ્રાયોરિટી હોય છે, અત્યારે રિસેન્ટલી વી હેડ એ ડિસ્કશન, દે આર કમિંગ અપ વિથ મલ્ટિપલ બ્રાઇટ આઈડિયાઝ ઓન ધીસ પોલિસી એન્ડ વિલ શ્યોરલી ડેવલપ સમ કોન્ક્રીટ એક્શન પ્લાન વિથ એજ્યુકેશન ડિપાર્ટમેન્ટ.
Okay, thank you, friends. I think very engaging, and more than that, very enlightening session without a doubt. We'll break for a very short time, 10-12 minutes. Then we'll start the technical aspects and the compliance from my partner Divyang, who is already here. And pachi we'll continue with the panel discussion where we have a combination of corporates, and Mr. Lal is here and he'll give a corporate view, and then there are NGOs who are going to give us the idea. Please. Ground floor banquet hall we have the tea and snacks, and then we come back very soon. Thank you. No, we are delayed by 30 almost. Good morning, friends. While others are joining, I'll take the liberty to at least initiate the program, introduce the speaker, and set the context of this second session of today's conference. So first session, of course, we had a very enlightening, as I mentioned a couple of times earlier, Mr. Pankaj from Gujarat CSR Authority, Parag Bhai from Wagh Bakri, and Bhushan Bhai from the Blind People's Association gave absolute overall overview of what the CSR is, what are the responsibilities, challenges, implications, with some case studies, with some videos. So next session we are looking at more on a compliance, how the CSR, and from the perspective of an advisor, from the perspective of an auditor, or a perfect perspective of somebody who would give an advice on what the challenges are and how to ensure that the CSR is met as per the expectation of the regulation, as well as per the philosophy or the committee that decides on how to spend, what to spend, where to spend, and within what time to spend. So I have with me my partner Divyang Desai. Divyang Desai is a partner at Deloitte. He has been a very senior, I would say, advisory partner. He has 7 years that he has spent at Deloitte and 9 years at Ernst & Young. And also he does quite a all-round work in terms of creating standard operating processes, internal audit of the company, risk advisory area. And he's based out of Ahmedabad now. Earlier he was in Mumbai. I also have Vivek to support. Vivek, you can join us on the dais also, doesn't matter. We can move one of the who has been a senior man. Vivek, you were involved in any of the AMA thing? No, earlier. Okay. And he is also part of the risk advisory as a director. And thanks Divyang for accepting our invitation. We would like you to give perspective of compliance and the care to be taken in terms of the CSR. And of course, to do the honors, we would like to welcome Divyang. Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Divyang.
Thank you, Soundbhai, for the introduction, and good morning, friends. The topic that I will cover is on the entire compliance piece. What is the legal framework, and what are the key amendments in the recent past, and what are the process policy the company corporate follows in order to ensure compliance with the CSR. So overall, we will talk on the legal framework, what are the components of the framework, what is an approach that a corporate and NGO follows, what are the key risk and fraud in the entire CSR, which every corporate and NGO needs to look into, because this fraud is imminent across various facets of the entire approach. And the recent amendment and what trends we have seen in CSR compliance, that also we'll talk. And on the CSR initiative, what we have seen in other companies, that will bring a flavor to that. The first is the legal framework. It's nothing but what is the amount that a company needs to invest or company needs to allocate for the CSR perspective. The entire CSR policy and the framework that company needs to implement, and the entire CSR committee, which is the governing body who implements the CSR policy of the company. Now, if you divide the entire framework, it comes into 4 pillars. One is applicability, to which corporate it is applicable based on turnover, based on net profit, and based on your overall turnover of a company. So one is to understand the applicability of the act and how do one ensure that a specific corporate compliance with the CSR regulation. The second is what is the implication of a non-compliance? Very critical, because if you don't comply, what are the penalties to the company? What are the penalties to the officer who is involved in that overall CSR activity? One is the board, the highest authority of the company needs to report into the annual report why CSR has not been invested by the company. And the reason has to be very specific. The second is in terms of financial penalty will be imposed by the authorities. Third is on the officer, a designated officer who is responsible for CSR. So these are the areas of the non-compliance. The second are the CSR committee responsibility. It has to be 3 to 4 member team, of which one has to be independent director. Why independent director? So that they can oversee the function of a CSR policy, implementation of the policy, and on a day-to-day basis, how the policy has been implemented by the company, and report to the board on the effectiveness of the implementation. And the board responsibility will be on a very high level, saying that who should be the member of the CSR committee, what should be the policy of the company, what should be the protocol of implementation, at the same time reviewing the effectiveness of the CSR spends. And the fourth is on the overall responsibility of the board in terms of responsibility. So the four important components of a CSR from the company perspective is, one is applicability, second is CSR committee, and the overall board responsibility on ensuring that the CSR committee implements the policy as per the compliance requirement. Now, if we divide what are the type of CSR activities a company can undertake, we can divide this into 3 buckets. One is the entire poverty eradication, slum development, and the providing the health and nutrition to the people at a very lower strata of the income. The second is entire providing the gender equality. The third is funding technology towards education, training, sports, and also protecting the heritage and culture. So Schedule 7 is very clear that what activities can be undertaken by CSR. Every company has to minutely understand the requirement and identify the implementation agency or agency which are into these activities. Because one has to really understand the nuances and the objective of the NGO who's implementing this specific activity. Because any non-compliance will directly impact the company as well as the NGO. So one is not only applicability to where the CSR is applicable to company, one is to also understand what are the activities being undertaken by the company and how a company can implement the same. What are the tax consideration? What are the benefits for a company? One is contribution based or a project based. It's very clear that under IT, there are various benefits available with the company as far as CSR is concerned. One is the Companies Act says what amount the company has to invest, but at the same time, there are benefits on the company's income tax also. So it's not only that the government is imposing that the company has to implement CSR, at the same time there are benefits, the taxation also. The company, whenever they implement CSR, they need to understand what are the best benefit a company can get from the taxation perspective and accordingly identify the various schemes and the implementation program. The next is most important, the governance framework. For a company, not only understanding a policy is critical, but the tone at the top, that is from the board to senior management and from senior management to the team who is implementing CSR. So one is your strategic direction, second is an oversight function, the third is the enablers that will help you to implement the CSR. So if you divide these 3, the first is the strategy. The board has to identify what programs and what is the activity that the company will undertake from the CSR perspective. Second is a oversight structure, which is nothing but a governance structure, like a CSR committee, who will oversight the functional team responsibility from the CSR perspective, and they report to the board on the implementation of this. And next, all other enablers in terms of policy, procedure, SOPs, tools, which will help you to monitor on an ongoing basis how the CSR activity by the company has been implemented, how do you report back to the board on the non-compliances, how do you report what on the effectiveness of the CSR program, what are the benefits the company has got because of CSR, and in terms of program, how it has really benefited the group to which the CSR program has been implemented. So it's very critical that not only the committee has to be formed, but you need to also have policies and procedure and a governing structure to implement the entire CSR program. Because unless this, there will be, though there is intention to implement, but if it will be implemented in a very haphazard manner, and there could be chances that a company will not implement a threshold limit amount into CSR. So though the board would like to implement it, but if the enablers are not available in the company, will not be able to implement the CSR. The third is, how do you implement an CSR? What should be the overall approach? The one is a commitment. The second is assess and define. So one is, what is the commitment of the board to implement a CSR? How do you define it in terms of policy, procedure, tools, framework, role, responsibility? How do you assess? How do you identify the need of of the business? How do you identify the need of the company to implement, or to identify a implementation partner to implement the CSR? The third is the entire implementation of the CSR activity. And the fourth is entire communication, internal as well as external. Internal, the reason being how the policies were implemented, and external to the world, saying how company is implementing policy, what activities has been undertaken by the company, what are the benefits that the society has got because of the implementation by the company. So the reporting internally and communication to the external world is very critical. So these 6 parameters help the company to implement the entire CSR program. Now, what are even the company has a best policy, you have a very good independent team who oversee the implementation, but there are certain risks of fraud which are inherent in any implementation of the program. This is applicable to every company, and this is based on our actual experience when we have seen the implementation at various companies in India, which is either an MNC or a listed entity or a private organization. The first is your CSR committee. Though it requires a more than 3-member team and one has to be independent, but when you see the composition of the CSR committee member, one has to identify, is there any conflict of interest of any director while identifying the implementation program? Is there any conflict of interest of any director in investing into an NGO? Or there is any conflict of interest of a director or relative of a director in this program? Though you have a very good policy structure, but if you do not identify, you will have a problem implementing this program. And this actually we have seen in many companies when the CSR was implemented at the initial stage when the companies had came into existence. And still we have seen these issues, though director may not be aware of the conflict of interest. But as a company, as an officer who implement has to educate to the CSR committee. There could be an indirect relationship through which there will be a conflict of interest. So one has to really flag such issues, discuss with the board, discuss with CSR committee, and ensure that this is implemented at the top. The second is the entire strategy and policy. It should not look like an advertisement or a brand promotion activity. You may invest the amount that is required by the act, but it may seen as a brand promotion of a company. So company may be investing into an NGO, but it's an indirect benefit that the company is getting through a communication, through advertisement, through a brand promotion activity. That has to be stopped. The third is identification of a partner. You may identify implementation partner, same as a conflict of interest. You may see that a partner is associated either with a board of director or independent director or a committee, or he may relative to any officer in the company, which is KMP. So the implementation partner, the entire structure, role, responsibility has to understand and to correlate with this. And that requires the independent party to check that there is no conflict of interest as far as the partner is concerned. The third is entire bribery, corruption, and inflated project. You may see that the actual cost is inflated. When you compare the implementation, though company has invested, but you see the cost incurred versus what is reported, there will be huge difference. That is why the actual cost is inflated by the implementation partner, by the officer who is involved. So one has to really understand what was the cost that was agreed, how the cost has been identified to be incurred, what are the supporting documents that demonstrate that this is an actual amount that has been implemented. There are many fictitious projects that we have seen. There is actual example when on a document it is seen that we will invest this X number of projects into a remote location of either in any part of India, but when you actually see, either the number of projects are less than what is committed or projects are non-existent. This is also a case where on a document a company may communicate that there's a number of projects being implemented by the company, but actually the projects are non-existent. There are documents which are, sorry to use the word fabricated, the documents will say that this has been implemented, but when you actually go and see, the real projects are not in existence. So you require a third-party agency, an independent person to verify the implementation of the effectiveness of the CSR program. Because the company may run the risk of either the actual cost is much less than what has been reported, or the actual program is not at all implemented by the company. And the last is all financial related frauds, where either you have inflated bills or you have a bill which is not at all implemented, or that could be a certain contracts, purchase order, which are normally not related to the activities being implemented. So these are the frauds that we have actually seen in many companies where but the people who are at the ground who are implementing, they may submit document or they may submit evidences which are not related to the real program. So such risk of fraud one has to identify at a very early stage, have a tools, enablers, and the identification of such areas upfront, and do this review on an ongoing basis. Because unless an officer who is responsible will not identify this, it may impact the image of the company also, then the brand and reputation of the company. So these are important areas that one has to look into. Implement the review of the effectiveness of the spend. It's like a fraud risk assessment. The potential risk, it may not have in place, but it's important that such reviews has to be done by the company on an ongoing basis. Now we'll talk on the recent amendments. The first amendment which has come recently in September 2020 is a new requirement has been added to CSR amendment policy. The company that has amount outstanding in its unspent CSR shall constitute a committee and comply with the relevant provision. So if the amount is not spent by the company, the same rules of a committee and will be applicable to the unspent amount also. In the earlier session, we just heard that how if the amount unspent, we have to contribute to the PM fund. Similarly, whatever amount which is left over, the same review mechanism will be applicable. CSR committee will review this and they will guide the company on compliance fees. The second relates to the entire Rule 2 has been now been omitted. This now requires that many implementation agency has been now been identified by the government which can be considered as an implementation agency, but the objective should be all the trust or a fund or institution, the objective should be non-profit. The objective should be for the social cause, non-profit, then they can be considered as an implementation partner, as an implementation agency from the CSR implementation perspective. So the new amendment classifies this, that this institution can be classified as an implementation agency, but the objective has to be for social cause and non-profit, including university. It should be non-profit, including hospital, it should be non-profit. So hospital, institution, fund, they are recognized as an implementation partner, but main objective of that should be non-profit and for social cause, they can be considered as an implementation partner. And the last amendment was to how do you book expenditure during the impact assessment, now been amended in terms of threshold limit. Earlier it was 5% and now it is 2%, and it is earlier it was whichever is less, now it is whichever is higher of 50 lakhs. So amount of expenditure which has been considered we can book as an expense, that is a new amendment has been come into the picture. And the entire disclosure of the CSR spend, so the board has to report on the CSR, the disclosure requirements that any unspent amount has to be also report, and how the unspent amount has been reported, how the company has dealt with the unspent amount has to be disclosed in the board report. These are the trends that we have seen in CSR compliance, and this is mostly in terms of global companies and large Indian companies, where the thrust is more on the, I will say, on the green energy, on the social impact. So if you see all electric infrastructure, so companies are now investing more on the companies which are into development of infrastructure which is non-electric, taking initiatives for the clean air. The companies which are involved in such activity, companies are now investing CSR into such companies. Climate change disclosures, the companies who are more robust in disclosing the climate change, those companies, companies are now investing. So focus of CSR has also changed from the normal activity of Schedule 7. The companies which are involved in green energy, companies which are involved in sustainability, companies which are involved in ESG. So thrust is more on environment, social cause, and for the upliftment of the society. The focus has now changed, and many companies globally are focusing on such initiatives. And the last is on the CSR initiatives, which is just a list of various initiatives which we have seen in companies over the last 5 to 7 years. The focus mostly companies on the health, nutrition, and sanitation. Most of the companies CSR are on these areas, followed by education, and very limited on the sports and environment. If you see the spends by the companies more on the health, second is on education, very limited in sports, and very limited on green energy. But the trend in last 2 years has changed, where focus is now more on green energy, sustainability. Sports is still a neglected sector in India, and the vocational training also has been neglected sector. So though the trust of the government is that you should focus more on the sports activity, focus more on making an environment clean, have a clean air, but companies are still focusing only on health and nutrition, because it's like one company is following, the other 10 follows that company. There is no new initiative by the company to identify which are the new avenues where a company can invest. So one has to really deep dive into and what are the new avenues and identify such areas and advise the board and CSR committee that these are the 5 new areas and companies should invest into it. I would close my presentation with any questions. I would be happy to answer that. See, you have to have a reason why the unspent amount. It was a legitimate reason, or it was missed by the company. Based on that, ROC will take a call. Because see, you may have a program, but some reasons you are not able to implement, or you are not planned to implement it. So it depends on that. But company can make a representation. We have seen many companies when company make a represent to ROC. Yeah.
Thank you, Devang Bhai, for a brilliant presentation. I need a clarification on 2 things which are not mentioned. Perhaps would need your views. One is, huge number of startups are coming in the social sector.
Sure.
And the majority of them are for profit. How would you deal with it, even if it is directly linked to your CSR project or programs that one is implementing? That's number one. And the second question is about social exchange that has come up. Would like to have some of your views. I don't understand this.
Yeah. Like I said, startup companies are, yes, last 2 years, if you see startup companies are more than the number of companies we have registered in last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And so one has to first understand the objective of the company. Like one of the requirements what we discussed was, is the objective non-profit, is the objective for social cause? What is the objective of the company? Study that, study the director, study the who are the key management personnel in that startup, what are their background, and what we discussed on the fraud risk. You have to understand, is there any conflict of interest, number one, what are their background in terms of how they are associated with any such activity in last 5 years, 10 years. So there will be a lot of background verification one a company has to do before you invest into a startup. And the second question you said about the social
sector exchange.
Can you elaborate more on that question? Sorry.
There's a lot of discussion on exchange being set up for the social sector.
Okay.
SEBI is
like
so
a commodity exchange,
Yeah,
BSE
yeah.
exchange, NSE
Yeah,
exchange.
social.
Right? Yeah. So, okay. Now I will also bring you on a lighter note. There is a barter exchange also has come up right now. Right. So people are talking on the social exchange saying that okay, I have invested X amount into this. What is the benefit I will get into some other sector? There are discussions going on, but there is no concrete answer or there is no concrete framework for the social exchange right now. Because very difficult to identify and implement. How do you see in an exchange? Two parties has to get a mutual benefit, right? Now in this social, how do you identify the benefit? How do you then say the second person has got the same benefit? In the equal, not remuneration, but in equal terms between the two parties. Though there is a discussion going, but there is no framework or components which will say how this exchange will work upon.
His first question, he said that NGO, implementing agency, is a startup and doing social cause, but for profit. Whether corporate who has to pay for CSR can take up such activities.
No, for profit is discouraged.
He said for profit.
For profit is discouraged because you will always have a problem. It is for profit.
Yeah. And now in for profit, suppose I am an implementing agency doing work in social work in education or medical or live to poor, where even I can do by charging money also under charitable person income tax act. Whether a CSR company can give money.
Then one has to demonstrate that component, whether it is for the social cause, whether that component was for non-profit. A lot of disclosure and evidence has to be demonstrated in terms of this component.
And to a question here, whether the penalty is retrospective or prospective. When he said that 2021 the penalty clause came.
Yeah.
But whether it is for retrospective
No,
or
like
for
I
unspent
said, so
amount.
what we are seeing in two companies, it's a practical example. If the representation is done and if you can demonstrate that it was not a purposefully was not spent, then it will not be retrospectively. There are two things. When you make a representation saying that this was not a deliberate requirement or by the company not to make an investment, that is not a process. But when you put your case and if the company is not that strong to demonstrate that which has been missed out deliberately, then it may be from the year one.
But whether the law of penalty is implemented on retrospective unspent amount or prospective?
No, so it doesn't say prospective. It says from the year when you have not implemented. From
definitely from 15. Yeah, okay.
It's from the year which you have not implemented, and if it is a deliberate, then the penalty is imposed.
Thank you.
I am an NGO, registered NGO company, but there are, suppose it's a non-profit company, so everything has to be given in balance. But there are some expenses which we have to make, like maybe something like what he just mentioned, which are creative expenses, because one needs to create material, maybe video, maybe training module, maybe design things. And that, so how does that one account for if it is not put for the as a part of NGO expense?
This cost is called an associate cost.
Sometimes it is not associate cost. Like I know I'm doing everything related to health or women empowerment. So I do create in advance also and keep it.
Right.
Okay. But that expense has been done before we take on a project. And that material is there. But that material is very important for that project.
Yeah, because
so how does one connect that?
There are two types of expenses. One is you incur expenses on an ongoing project. There are certain expenses you may incur upfront related to that program, right? So one has to demonstrate that this was related to this. It may be a relative cost, associate cost, or a cost which was for that specific objective. So you have to have a strong documentation saying that one is you will have a document that says how much money has been spent. But at the same time, we have to also make a document saying that why you had spent for this. It was related to this activity, or it was associated to this activity, or the reason why you have spent now before the actual program was implemented.
Because it takes a long time to create material. When the project
Could be,
comes, there are a
that's
lot of other things. And there are certain conditions which are common, like you do working on malnutrition, so you need a lot of material on that, or anemia, or maternal child health, or a school health. So certain things are standard. So one needs to ongoingly keep on creating, not wait
You
for
can
the project.
categorize all as a pre-program expense. Then you categorize into associate, relative, or expenses which are related to the activity. You can put all under pre-program expense. One classic head is called pre-program.
That can be created a pre-program expense.
And you need to have a proper details. I will not say
of course.
justification, but details why you are
Yeah, the
spending it.
details including all the cost and for what particular thing and everything can be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
If any large project we are doing and it's not measurable, it's like if we are talking about mental health, if we are doing some project on mental health and we are not, because it's mental health, we are not running a counseling center, but we are doing a project for the long-term project for the awareness, then how we can go for the monitoring and evaluation of that project?
So suppose these are the long duration projects.
Yeah.
You break into phases, you break into months, you break into weekly activity.
Yeah.
The way you spend the money, right? You will have objective why you're paying this money.
True.
Right? So you can monitor that objective.
Okay.
We have seen in many companies where it's a 2-year, 3-year duration. You can have a quarterly review, you can have a 6 months review. When you, it's like a drawdown expenses. When you make an expense for an activity, you can go and measure that activity and have a record of this.
Okay. Thank you.
Because certain are measurable, certain are not measurable. For the non-measurable, you go by the duration, you go by when the money was spent, and what was the objective of spending that money.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, yeah. True. So there, like I said, it's called a drawdown expense review. When you're spending in money, there was an objective, how you spent, and that can be monitored.
I have a question. You have said that CSR is compulsory for people who have got a net worth of 500 crores, annual turnover of 1,000 crores, or a profit of 5 crores. I think, these are all disparate conditions.
Yeah.
So if any company registered, say under the Companies Act, has a profit of more than 5 crores, it comes under the ambit of CSR. Now, if you go by this particular definition, obviously the number of companies that will be covered in the maybe year or the coming years is going to be huge. Because it is not only manufacturing companies, a service company, an accountancy firm, or a construction firm, or a retail firm, all of them will be coming under this. 5 crores is a very small profit level. So I don't know whether members of AMA are fully aware about the maybe this particular sort of a conditionality.
True.
So I guess going forward we will do that and then advise everybody that this is what is the case. And therefore, the moment you cross 5 crores, you come under this, and these are the kinds of penalties. Because the awareness level is indeed very, very low. I am an independent director on some boards, and I tell you, even I am not aware about the kind of penalties that are imposed. And then sharing of the penalty by the directors. I mean, it is something like a revelation to me. Thank you.
We'll take the last one. Being one of the implementing partners of many of the NGOs, we work for 57 NGOs across the country, 57 corporate across the country, pardon. One common question that we face while budgeting, that for an education program, I will give an example. There are events which are organized for the inauguration of the project or the closure of the project. Now with the current interpretation of the CSR amendments are being, the corporate are being very upfront that these inaugurations and the closing projects are not part of the CSR. So the first question is that correct? If that is not, while budgeting as an organization, how we can showcase it as a particular community outreach? Thanks.
Okay. Like you rightly said, opening, because these are not related to your actual activity, right? You are to spend money on education initiatives. The inauguration program and the closing is like a facilitation center, but it's not actually related to implementation of the program. So authority may take a view and say these are not a legitimate expense towards CSR. But at the same time, if you can demonstrate how this opening ceremony or this was linked to this, then could be chances that could be allowed. But the important criteria of CSR is the amount of money spent is for social purpose. You may do, the law says you may have opening ceremony, you may not have opening ceremony. But you are spending a money on the opening ceremony, which may not be required. Because the authority, see, because if you see CSR, the law has come in existence only 6-7 years back. Still, it's in evolving phase, right? The moment a corporate and NGO makes a representation to the authority, in future they may take a stand. But currently, most of the companies are evolving into different types of activity. The moment they come with the lot of areas where the certain expenditure will not be considered CSR, a representation will be made, then the regulator may take a stand that yes, with this expense, these are also certain expenses which will be allowed.
But being an implementing agency as well as the corporate also want their presence in those areas.
Right.
Of course, it's not part of the branding, it's part of the community outreach. So how as an organizer, how as an expert you would
So there
advise
we
it?
need to demonstrate the requirement of a opening ceremony, why it was required, and how that is linked to your actual expense. Like a representation has to be made to the regulatory authority, convincing them why this was required.
Yeah, so what part of the schedule we can code that this would be under that cover? Because
No, Schedule 7 very clearly says 9 to 10 activities.
Yes.
Right? But under each, you need to really understand under what activity this particular expense will be incurred. Like it's an education initiative, right? So why you require an opening ceremony? That was a requirement because it is a long duration education initiative. There are a lot of delegates were supposed to attend that. So one has to demonstrate to that, because end of the day, regulatory has to accept such expenses as a legitimate CSR.
yeah, that is correct. But from the corporate's point of view, when placing a budget from the NGO, is there any way that we can convince the corporate, and it is also legally binding that?
So you have to, means the NGO has to educate the corporate that this will not be considered as a CSR as on date.
That's true. But the
because when we are seeing in many companies a budget.
Yeah, please.
અવેરનેસ માટે છે કે બધા ગામડાના લોકો આવતા હોય બધા આવતા હોય તો એ સમજે પેરેન્ટ્સ કે મારા બાળકને ભણાવવું જરૂરી છે અને એટલે તમારા સેરેમનીમાં એ સબ્જેક્ટ ઉપર કન્વર્ઝેશનમાં અને એનાઉન્સમેન્ટમાં અને ક્લોઝિંગ સેરેમનીમાં એનો ઇમ્પેક્ટ તમે દર્શાવો કે સાહેબ આ કર્યું હતું અને એ વર્ષમાં એમાં આટલો ફરક પડ્યો કે આટલા ડ્રોપ આઉટ્સ ઘટી ગયા, આટલા બાળકો ભણતા થઈ ગયા, આટલા બાળકોએ આડા રસ્તે જતા બંધ થયા અને પેરેન્ટ્સ એને એક્નોલેજ કરે કે આ મારું બાળક ભણતું થયું કે અંદર એનાઉન્સમેન્ટ હોય તો એ બધા ખર્ચા
આ બરોબર છે, પણ બજેટમાં શું રીતે? We will discuss offline.
Hi. We will take it in the panel discussion. What the guys are doing.
Hello, sir.
We will take it in the panel discussion. Neeraj, maybe I think part of the proposal. Then it is applicable. If it is not made as part of the proposal, then it is
not applicable.
So one last question. From the last.
I think thanks. Maybe we can take it offline. Any more questions? And thanks. I think Divyang, very elaborate presentation. Thank you very much. And I'm happy that he presented the whole thing, but he took the crux out of the presentation, and then that was very helpful. But very important, I think some of the things that he started with governance was covered with Parag Bhai's also. But the trends, the frauds that can happen, the corruption can happen through this, because you are trying to give money to somewhere where the politicians are involved, etc. And so this fraud space is very important, and then the impact and measurement, and certainly it is the purpose ultimately. Schedule 7 is sacrosanct, no choice about it. Yeah. That we'll figure out if we can do some presentation out there. So thank you, Divyang. Thanks, Vivek, for joining the conference. And we will go on to the next panel straight away. We have a wonderful panel, structured very well, where we get a benefit of. May I invite Mr. Lal, Niraj Lal, on the dais, please. We can, please, Ms. Sandeep Mayurbhai. Sandeep. You have a presentation over here. You want to delete that? You can do that.
It's my laptop.
Then absolutely. And Rima Ben. Sorry. I made a mistake. Rupa Ben Mehta. Yes. I understand. So we move on to the next and the last session. Before, of course, we are very keen to hear Dangayat sir for the valedictory, because his views are just fabulous. I have attended so many of his research work that I have been hearing, and I call it a research work that Dangayat sir would generally present. So thank you. I have to introduce the speakers. Mr. Neeraj Kumar Lal, he is the head CSR at Arvind Mills. He is heading the CSR function responsible for conceptualization, formulation of strategies and management of the program and addressing the societal issues in the urban India. His present engagement is an ambitious educational program aimed at improving the quality of education for the poor children in Ahmedabad and influencing their positive earning streams. And I think we are very keen to know what you were cursorily mentioning, that how you can create earning streams and prepare them for the future. His experience, 28 years as head of CSR Arvind. He was in Arvind Mills 14 years and trainee at Center for Environment Education before that. Mr. Sandeep Varya, may I request maybe we can do the honors of welcoming with a floral welcome and a memento. So Padmin bhai, can you do the honors, please? Yeah, Mr. Lal. Padmin bhai, may I hold you for Sandeep bhai? Not, but to save time, Mayur bhai now. I'll introduce. I'm just saving time. So to introduce other dignitaries on the dais, Sandeep bhai is the head project and partnership at Dr. K.R. Shroff Foundation. He was a director for 16 years at Supath Trust and manager CSR at Cadila Pharmaceutical Limited. So he has all-round view of both from the corporate side as well as the foundation side. And he was associate director at Gujarat chapter also for 4 years. Mayur bhai, he is the managing trustee at the Udgam Trust, one of the founder members of Udgam Charitable Trust, and voluntarily working as managing trustee of Udgam since 1997, with responsibility to promote organizational activities in line with the objectives of the trust. It was initiated with the motto of upliftment of vulnerable, and I think we would be very keen to know that how this motto is seeing light of the day. So their primary focus is sanitation, women and child empowerment. 17 villages got Nirmal Gram Puraskar from Government of India, and he got various awards in this upliftment of the vulnerable as the motto of the trust, and with the trust for 25 years giving voluntary services. Thank you, Mayur bhai, for joining us. Rupa Ben is a trustee Vikas Guru. Vikas Guru is also again a very known NGO in the town. doing fabulous activities. I was just telling our Deloitte guys were at Vikas Guru on our Impact Day last month. And she has been earlier the director of Doordarshan Gujarat also. So we will get some insights on the media aspect of the in the CSR that is also very important, and whether it tantamounts to branding or whether it tantamounts to the objects of the purpose of the CSR. And of course we have for our valedictory Dangayat sir. Dangayat sir has been very much part of AMA's executive thing, but he is and coming from a background of a corporate where he has the highest and positions that he was heading. He created Syntax as a brand, and then several corporate strategies which everybody looks at it as a case study for growth. And he has huge number of social initiatives that he has taken even post his corporate life. So we would be very keen to have him for the valedictory. Without spending more time on this, the purpose of the session is experience sharing and panel discussion by corporates and CSR beneficiaries, that are the implementation partners. So we will start with Mr. Lal, who is heading Arvind CSR for so much a long time. So we'll first have the experience sharing as much time as the dignitaries would want to take, maybe ideally 5 to 7 minutes each, and then we can have panel discussion followed by some Q&As as we want. Over to you, Mr. Lal, and please be comfortable using that mics. Yeah.
Thank you, Savan bhai. I'll exactly try and take 6 minutes because I'm gonna share about 3 activities, 3 initiatives which has been running for quite a long time. But first, I would certainly compliment Ahmedabad Management Association for setting this up and putting up the structure that we have seen today. I have said for quite a long time, and that's what, quote in quote, makes the paradigm shift from an event. Any corporate, if you look at, who are doing things seriously, they have been doing it for long. I joined Arvind in 95, passed out from Xavier's Institute of Social Service with my postgraduate in rural development. And in that time, it was, we used to aspire to get into Narottam Lalbhai Rural Development Fund 30 years ago. We used to aspire because Lalbhai Group was doing it through their trusts, and all the top institutions, we wanted to come there even for an internship. So getting into that, the point I am trying to make is that law or no law, there are corporates who have been doing this work. Waghbakri Group, the kind of work they are doing, if they didn't require any act or law to do that. It is in the genes, as Parag Bhai said. So experience sharing, I'll share 3 activities quickly, and all long term. We have one program which we call Gyanada. It is a supplementary education program for municipal school children. We are taking it to rural areas now. It's an 8 to 12 year hand-holding program. So when we teach our children, when we support them, we know that they need to be taken up to a level. Their education has to complete. So while we are going for disadvantaged section, why this approach is not there? We cannot have an education program which is supporting somebody for 2 years. So from class 5 to class 12, before and after school hour, academic and non-academic support, and continuously tracking their progress to ensure that education to employment link is maintained. So a guy, a student, a child who comes to us and remains with us for at least 8 years, we see a dramatic change and coming out of poverty. So the large purpose is that it should be the last generation in poverty for that child. Okay. All the students who have been part of this, they are engineers, they are doctors, they are in nursing, they are MBAs, they are into government jobs, they are into art and craft, they are painters, they are singers, they are dancers. All this overall development, moving away from a kind of income or family income of 10,000 rupees or less, they have moved to a family income of 1.5 lakh rupees. All happening in about 8 to 10 years time. Okay, so it happens because all the children of a family come, and in 7 to 8 years their life is transformed. So all CSR, I will repeat, is long term. Okay, let me share the second activity. The second activity is a very ambitious program which we are doing as a part of our CSR, but not spending any CSR money on this. Okay, it is a program to support tribal girls, but we are working with our civil society partners in Dahod, Godhra, Narmada, Valsad and those areas. We are identifying these girls from these areas, getting them trained in their areas, and placing them with a factory that we have, which produces protective wear garment. And it doesn't end there. You are bringing the girls from there, then we are the guardians, right? So we have set up residential factories. All costs built up, not to be billed to CSR. Why? Because as it was said, it may be considered, though all the consulting companies told us that forget about it, you can bill it to CSR, it is for tribal girls. But we said no, it may be considered as normal course of business, which is not allowed. Okay, so they stay with us 8 hours, they work, 8 to 10 hours they have their facilities, they have their self time, and beyond that we have started linking them to Baba Saheb Ambedkar University. So 2016 to 2020, 148 girls completed their graduation, and 2 cleared police constable. From 10,000 rupees, their salary was 37,000 rupees per month. And people say, you are fools, you are giving them a skill so they will leave you. I said, that's the whole purpose. I am building my own attrition to ensure I will get another batch, and all these girls should go and find better job in better white collar jobs. So these are 2 very important things. I think I have crossed my time. The third one I will come again if the time permits. Okay, thank you very much.
I think that was very passionate more than anything else. So, Mayur, would you like to share some your experiences?
Namaskar. My experience is, I can say, through CSR, I just done my paradigm shift through NGO culture to CSR. Because primarily when CSR law came, before that I'm just giving you a very smaller example, and that is, I used to wear kurta and jeans. And still I love it. But now, because Ajay is here and we know each other from so many years, so, and now when I came, I'm just going for the CSR conferences, and I have changed my dressing sense and dress up. So why I'm talking this? Because primarily NGOs are having that mindset. It's a grantable organization. We need to change primarily our mindset, and I've changed. So due to that, we are getting funds from the corporates, and we have a very good rapport and relations with we are working in Gandhinagar, so we are having a very good relations with the corporates based in Gandhinagar. And they are always ready to fund if the project is good and viable. And let's not talk and think about they are not ready to fund you, or what we can say in Gujarati, we can say ke bau matha pachi chhe, matha kut bau chhe. It is not like that. They are always ready to fund you. We are getting funds from the various corporates sitting in InfoCity. Even InfoCity is giving us a fund, and through that, we are working at the government primary schools of Gandhinagar, and we are happily to say that, like Mr. Lal said, we are also very much happy and talking with the various organizations. We have very good rapport with the government or Gandhinagar Corporation schools or Gandhinagar Municipal Corporation due to our work only. If I am on the board of Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts as an advisor for the Western region, for the 4 states, and without spending any single penny from Government of India, single penny, we have done 4 programs with the Gandhinagar Municipal Corporation in Gandhinagar. We are not saying corporates are not ready to fund, but NGO needs to understand the term resource mobilization, because we don't think and we are just thinking on the funds. We need to understand the terminology of resource mobilization. It's not all about the money only. So like from last 25 years we are working, we are doing work with the women, we work on hygiene, we work on mental health specifically. We are talking about urban women's mental health. We are not doing that, but it's no cost program. So like Neeraj Lal ji said, like that we are also running a no cost programs are there where corporate people are helping us to counsel that women. We corporate people comes to teach our childrens. They are providing us infrastructure cost and everything, and we are getting that benefit from the corporate. So corporates and corporate people are like us only. They are always having a mindset to support us if we are good at everything. See, they also understand the community brand building aspects. So they are always there for you. Let's change our smaller things. We are ready with our, like Parag Bhai said, they are lacking in documentation. So we are always open for everything. So we have opened our doors for the corporates. So my request is, people are there here from the NGO sector, they need to open their doors for the corporates so we can create the win-win situation. Thank you.
I think so important. In fact, our Bhushan bhai ne capacity, resource mobilization. It's so important. He emphasized. Yeah. It is not about કે તમે પૈસા ઉઘરાવવાની વાત કરો છો, તમારી તૈયારી, how ready you are, તમારો track record. I think this is very important point for all the NGOs to understand that this being ready and the resource mobilization capacity એ create કરવી બહુ જરૂરી છે. And then fund is એક જ aspect of so many things. Yes, સંદીપ ભાઈ, તમને if આપ શેર કરી શકો.
Thank you so much.
You can take this mic.
Okay, I think I am audible. So I would like to take the discussion happened in the first session forward. Very rightly Punani sir had stated that corporate should not only sign the check and transfer the fund to the NGOs for the fulfillment of corporate social responsibilities, but they should also involve their manpower, their skills, their strategical manpower, their technology, etc. for the betterment of community flora and fauna. So the same story we have been practicing over last 10 years at Dr. K.S. Rock Foundation. The founder sir is renowned entrepreneur in India and global, and he has sold everything to do the social work. We have approached various departments, government departments and organizations, and in order to explore what are the gaps and we can contribute to bridge those gaps. So education department grabbed us, saying that okay, education is an ocean and we are having so many gaps, and if you can help us to bridge such gaps. So we have started working in the academically poor performing areas. Yes, many organizations, many corporates have limitation that they are working in the vicinity and the presence villages only. But we do work where there is no one to work. So we don't have that limitation, and we have started working in the areas where no one has so far reached. And starting with the 6 schools, we have currently serving 500 plus schools in the Gujarat, covering 6 districts, and helping 55,000 plus students. And our model is like academically poor performing students, if they are in grade 6, 7, 8, unable to read and write, so we identify such students, take them into the other class within the school premises during the school time only, and help them into numeracy and literacy first, so foundational education, and then we have designed bridge course, so that the next year onwards student can continue education with his batchmates in respective grade. So this is how we have been supporting 55,000 plus students, and we are also learning. So we are also going deeper and deeper. Like we have observed that many of deserving students doing good in the education are regularly irregular because they have to go for the earning, because some of them are orphan, lost their father, so many reasons. So we are going deeper and deeper and started helping such students, linking with them government schools like Widow Pension School, then Palak Mata Pita Yojana, so that they can start receiving assistance from government. Also we are linking them with some other organizations, scholarship scheme. We have started our very own scholarship scheme and helping such students to continue with the education. Apart from doing that, we are also supporting corporates and NGOs doing good in their respective fields, respective areas. So it's an idea to like leverage collective genius. So this is how we have been working, and we are very much open to support committed, dedicated organization, irrespective of their areas, issues they are working in. We are always open to welcome such organizations with good commitment and long-term impact-oriented projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep bhai. Rupaben, Vikas Guru, I don't know, must be how many years old? Ketla 40, 50, 86 years old, imagine, wow. And most of us would know Vikas Guru ne etlo bada sari activities, so tame kai experience, if you can share, please.
Hello. In fact, I'll start with little bit a history of our city and our state. Gujarat is always known for its Shreshthipanu. So if you see, our first school for girls was built by Harkuvar Shethani, and same person is also part of Hati Singh Nadera. એટલે અમદાવાદ ખાસ કરીને ગુજરાત એના શ્રેષ્ઠીપણા માટે ખાસ પ્રખ્યાત છે. આ દેશની મોટાભાગની જે સિગ્નિફિકન્ટ ઇન્સ્ટિટ્યૂટ છે એ આપણા ગુજરાતના શ્રેષ્ઠીઓએ બનાવેલી છે, જેમ કે IIM ને બધી જ સંસ્થાઓ. એવી જ રીતે અમદાવાદ એન્ડ ગુજરાત ઇઝ નોન ફોર ઇટ્સ NGOs ઓલ્સો, એન્ડ ધોઝ NGOs બેઝિકલી were built on the impact of Gandhian thoughts. So where I am working as a trustee is a kind of a result of Gandhian thoughts, and the pioneers were Pushpaben Mehta and Mridula Sarabhai. And we work with half of our community, women, women in distress, orphan girls, also women who are survivor of violence. And our challenges are quite different than all other organizations, because most of the girls or most of the women whom we receive in our organization are in tremendous mentally affected because of violence, and their mental health is a challenge for us. For us, it is most of them are from very poor class. So what has happened, what I have seen, see, basically I would like to just let you know about myself a little bit. I have spent 35 years in media, and that also the premier institute of this country. I was part of Doordarshan and have been making programs for women and for farmers and for many other things. So basically I'm a media professional,
And then after I retired, I wanted to always work for women. So, and naturally one opportunity came. So I'm trustee of two women's organizations. One is Ahmedabad Women's Action Group, which is called Awaj, which is primarily involved in creating awareness against violence against women. And Vikas Group, which has three basic work. One, we have a hostel and a school. In hostel, we have orphan girls or girls from single parents, mostly single mothers and survivor of violence. The second is we have a preventive rescue home where we have women above 18. Either they are found on the street or somewhere, or they are also kind of a victim of rape cases. Or now, recently, which is happening, they have run away from home in love affairs and certain things. So these are the girls. And we also do skill development. Skill development, earlier also Pushpaben and all, they had done a wonderful job. So we are just carrying their legacy, though we are not so powerful, but yes, we are trying. So I have a certain issues which I am facing since last 2 years. આપણા સમાજમાં મોટા ભાગે જે છોકરીઓ વાયલન્સની ભોગ બનેલી હોય છે એને એક દયાના ભાવે જોવામાં આવે છે અને ગરીબ દીકરીઓને દયા આપવી અને આપણે ક્યાંક સમાજમાં છે કે આજે મારા પપ્પાનું શ્રાદ્ધ છે એટલે જમવાનું આપી દઈએ, આજે મારા મમ્મીનો જન્મદિવસ છે એટલે છોકરીઓને જમવાનું આપી દઈએ. અને બીજું એક આપણે ત્યાં જે પ્રોસિજર છે કે આ જે CSRની વાત છે, એક સમય હતો જ્યારે આપણા શ્રેષ્ઠીઓનો જમણો હાથ દાન આપતો હતો ને ડાબા હાથને ખબર નહોતી પડતી, અને એ લોકો સમાજમાં ઇક્વાલિટી માટે એ લોકો પ્રયત્ન કરતા હતા. અને આમ આપણે જરા આઝાદીની ચળવળ વિશે વિચારીએ ને તો આઝાદીની ચળવળમાં પણ આપણા શ્રેષ્ઠીઓની બહુ જ મોટી ભૂમિકા હતી. આજે શું થયું છે કે દાન આપવાની જે આખી પ્રોસેસ છે ને એમાં લોકો અમે દાન આપ્યું દાન આપ્યું દાન આપ્યું બધાને ગાવાનો શોખ છે. અને એને કારણે શું થયું છે કે આઈ એમ અ ગીવર એન્ડ યુ આર અ ટેકર. સો વોટ વી આર ટીચિંગ ધેમ ઇઝ ટુ હાથ લાંબો કરવાનું. અને આ એક બહુ જ એટલે આ મારો એઝ અ હ્યુમન બિંગ આઈ ફીલ ઇટ્સ ઇન અ ઇન્સલ્ટ ટુ હ્યુમેનિટી. And I was just going through that, one of the thing for CSR is a human dignity, human rights and equality, gender equality. So when we are talking about CSR, I think whoever is doing, if individual is doing or a corporate is doing, any અંદર આ એક વાત આવી જોઈએ, હ્યુમન ડિગ્નિટી જળવાય એક વાત. એટલે આવી અને હું ગિફ્ટ આપી ગઈ અને બસ then you don't know what has happened afterwards. So I wish as a NGO or as a person who is working with the most difficult, most challenging girls and women, that whoever works with us, CSR, when they give fund, હું બધા બહુ લોકોને કહું છું કે મારે માત્ર પૈસા નથી જોઈતા. હમણાં જે ભાઈએ કહ્યું ને, I need your hours. You spend some hours with us. It's a with CSR, you come with your skills. If the company has a skill for health, then they should come and do some health awareness with our girls. If they have a computer expertise, then they should come and do some computer teaching with our girls. So with money, if they give some hours, human hours, and that also continuous hours, I think that will suffice the objective of CSR. Because basically આપી દીધું છૂટી ગયા, એ જે વાત છે ને એની સામે મારું પોતાનું પર્સનલ એઝ અ મીડિયા પ્રોફેશનલ, એઝ અ હ્યુમન રાઇટ ઓર ડિગ્નિટીના રેફરન્સમાં જો વાત કરું અથવા જેન્ડર ઇક્વાલિટીના વિષયમાં, તો આઈ થિંક દેટ ઇઝ ધ મોસ્ટ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ થિંગ. બીજી જે વસ્તુ છે કે અત્યારે મોટાભાગના CSR, હમણાં એક ભાઈએ જેમણે પ્રેઝન્ટેશન કર્યું કે બધાને એન્વાયરમેન્ટ ને એ બધા વિષયો પર વધારે કામ કરે છે. વોટ આઈ ફાઉન્ડ ઇઝ not from my Vikas Guru experience, also from my Doordarshan experience, that mental health is going to be a great challenge to everyone. And every second person is affected with a mental health issues. આપણને શરમ આવે છે, આપણને ડિપ્રેશન આવે તો દેટ હાઉ કેન આઈ ટેલ, ઇટ્સ હું કહીશ કે મને ડિપ્રેશન છે તો ખરાબ લાગશે. સો આઈ થિંક corporate sector should also think about how to work on mental health. And if they can spend their CSR somewhere in mental health, I think it will be a really helpful to many organizations as well as their own employees. Because અત્યારની જે આપણું જે અત્યારે કલ્ચર છે અને આપણે જે રીતે દોડીએ છીએ અહીંયાથી અહીંયા અને આપણી જરૂરિયાત કરતાં આપણે જેટલા ખર્ચા વધારે કરતા જઈએ છીએ એમ મેન્ટલ હેલ્થના ઇશ્યુઝ વધતા જાય છે. અને ઇન માય ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશન આઈ ફેસ ઇટ અ લોટ because the girls, they cannot cope up with their stress, the cruelty around them, their like what they have suffered. So એ લોકો એને કારણે એટલા બધા ડિસ્ટ્રેસમાં આવી જાય છે કે એવરી થર્ડ ડે આઈ ફેસ કે કોઈ છોકરીને હાથમાં કાપા મૂકવા હોય, કોઈ છોકરીને ઉપરથી કૂદકા મારવા હોય. સો I think, and especially orphan girls, they have this issue a lot, or a single parent's child.
Thank you,
So
Rupa
this
Ben.
is
What
the-
I would want to elaborate further when we get into one more question.
So I
Yes,
have
please.
only one thing, and about media. All the corporate houses now, many of them, they own media, and social media is a one very interesting tool where corporate sector can reach to NGO for their CSR activities, so that NGOs can use that activity, and they can, like, there can be a bridge between corporates as well as NGO. And Emma sachi વાત, like truth and vishwasniyata, credibility, these two can be the basic of that. Thank you so much.
This is working now. So I think fabulous, but something that I draw from Rupa Ben's point of view, and Mr. Lal, it is for you, that she mentioned that, give hours, give time, not just money. But so if I relate it to a corporate CSR, which a corporate is doing, and then do you see that this, and I think Parag bhai mentioned something, that my distributor and my shop fellow retailer also went for a project we were doing in Varanasi. So does this have an impact or inspiration to our, I'm not saying that's purpose of business, we're not doing the CSR for the employees or for my distributors, but does this have an impact in the organization on the engagement level or inspiration level of the employees, or even I would say the associates?
Most certainly yes, with capital letters. At the start and at the end, we all are human beings, and we are guided through our emotions. So if my employees go and visit a site, if my employees go and interact with the participants, I hate using the word beneficiaries. Because if there is anybody a beneficiary, Neeraj Lal is the biggest beneficiary of my CSR program. So they are not beneficiaries, they are participants of the program. So if any of our employees, any of our vendors, any of the stakeholders involved in the business value chain, if they interact with our participants, they certainly get positively impacted, and it creates a very good culture on this. I'll give you an example. Our employees, the best designers, textile designers of India, who work with us, design garments and fabric, they came and they started talking to our children about sustainability. And how will you improve your understanding of sustainability? Through drawing and painting. Okay, so children started painting, and when children painted, after 3 months, best of the paintings were selected, There are large canvases made and was placed all over the offices with those children's picture and photograph, converted into a booklet, and were given to all the buyers, Gap, Levi's, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein. We are giving थैले बना के उसके ऊपर उनके ये लगा के उनको हमने दिया कि ये इन बच्चों ने दिया है, एंड वी कंट्रोल. सो इट इज सर्टनली, बट आई वुड जस्ट ऐड टू वन कमेंट दैट यू मेड कि पैसा आप्या एंड छूटा पड़या. अभी गवर्नमेंट ये करने ही नहीं देगी. इट इज इम्पॉसिबल दैट यू कैन जस्ट साइन अ चेक and you can get away with this. It is complete, as Bhushan Bhai said and the bank said, that you as a corporate we need to completely look after, monitor and see the change and communicate the change. So that is why it's very important for organizations, NGOs, corporates and organizations like AMA to work together to create frameworks through which we can create such changes.
Yeah, thank you. So it's certainly a surety that the employee engagement, employee feeling, employee respect maybe for the organization changes. So all the reasons what Rupaben is saying, that people writing a check versus giving some time will also have some indirect and intangible impact to the organizations itself also. Maybe I have a question for you, that how significant is CSR for any NGO and a very well established NGO? CSR no kaido na hot ke hot, does it make an impact, or is CSR certainly helping you achieve your objectives, maybe more stronger or more larger?
I can say it's a two-way, because if NGO is well versed with all the documentation and everything, then they are getting good projects from the corporates. But if, which I said earlier, if you are not opened your doors, then you are not able to get any kind of projects, and you need to think beyond boundaries. So you don't require, or you require the things which you have not done earlier. પહેલાં એવું હતું કે પૈસા આવતા હતા ને આપણે વાપરી નાખતા હતા, બટ વી વર નોટ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટીની વાતો કરતા હતા, પણ વી વર નોટ ડુઈંગ એની કાઇન્ડ ઓફ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટી, બિકોઝ નાવેડેઝ major NGOs are post-COVID earlier also, and now because we all were dependent on the government projects, so it was a short-term things, and we are not able to, we are talking about sustainability, we are not sustainable. So if when corporates came with the NGOs, then it's for the good for the NGOs, because NGO can work on one subject and then they can talk about sustainability and they themselves are sustainable. So it's more, I can say it's beneficial for the NGOs, those who are working with the open arms and open eyes. It's good for the NGOs to work with the corporates.
So I think the point, yes, Neeraj, you can add better.
I'll just add a word. Can CSR be significant for NGOs? I'll say CSR can never be significant for an NGO if you are not ready to be significant. So CSR is significant for an NGO if the NGO is progressive, and it is not significant if NGO is not progressive. Let me define progressive. Progressive would mean that you are looking at CSR as a partner. So if I have given the fund, you are helping me to report it back to the government, because it is now mandatory. And I cannot report unless my partner is giving me a report. And we have been in this situation that we have funded, and there are organizations who have really reported it back well, and there have been tremendously big organizations who have given very bad report. Okay, so if you are a progressive organization and get into a partnership mode, it's certainly significant move. If you are not, then pretty difficult.
I think very important, very This mic gets off by itself. Maybe there's some setup here. But I know I'm very keen to hear Dangayat sir also. Sustainability is the key that Mayur bhai said, that anything that you do, unless it's sustainable, it's not going to. And then of course Neeraj added the word progressive. Unless there's progressive, that also would not attract. The important point, maybe Sandeep bhai, you can give your thoughts on this implementation. But that NGO as an implementation partner has a very critical role to play, because there's a penalty, there's a possibility of the corporate which is actually banking on you to implement as per the CSR committee's objective and converting into the spend which will fit into the regulation and also the philosophy. So what is the implementation that an NGO generally ensures in terms of every activity to be done and end result? And ultimately we can also add the impact.
Yeah, perfectly. So ફાઇન. ઓકે, તો ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટેશનની જે વાત કરવામાં આવી, અત્યારે મયુરભાઈએ પણ કીધું કે પહેલાં એનજીઓ એક ફિલેન્થ્રોફિક ઝીલથી શરૂ થતા હતા. કોઈક એક જગ્યાએ ગેપ દેખાય છે, કામ કરવાની જરૂર લાગી છે, 5-7 લાઇક માઇન્ડેડ જે શ્રેષ્ઠીઓ છે કે જે લોકો અફોર્ડ કરી શકે છે ભેગા થઈ અને ત્યાં આગળ કન્ટ્રીબ્યુટ કરતા હતા પોતાની રીતે. આન્સરેબિલિટી કોઈ સાથે હતી નહીં, કારણ કે મારો પૈસો છે, મને જરૂર લાગી છે ત્યાં હું વાપરું છું, અને એ રીતે સોશિયલ વર્ક થતા હતા. પણ હવે જે એક્ટ આવ્યા પછી રિપોર્ટિંગ ને આ બધું જે સેબીમાં જો લિસ્ટેડ હોય તો થોડું વધારે તમારે સ્ટ્રિક્ટલી રિપોર્ટ્સ બનાવીને આપવા પડે છે. આ બધું કમ્પલસરી થઈ ગયું. એટલે ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશન માટે પણ હવે જો પૈસો જે ખર્ચે છે તો એ ક્યાં ખર્ચ્યો છે અને શું ઇમ્પેક્ટ આવ્યો છે. પહેલાં કોઈને જમાડી દેતા હતા, એ પણ એક CSR હતું, સમાજ સેવાનું કામ હતું. પણ હવે આવા બધા કામોમાંથી બહાર નીકળવું પડશે ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશન્સે, કારણ કે કોઈકના પૈસાની આન્સરેબિલિટી એ લોકો લઈને જાય છે. વેન દે આર ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટિંગ સર્ટેન પ્રોજેક્ટ્સ, દે આર આન્સરેબલ ટુ સમવન કે અમે તમારો પૈસો આ કામ માટે ખર્ચ્યો છે અને એનો ઇમ્પેક્ટ આ છે, તો ઇમ્પેક્ટ તો તમારે બતાવવો જ પડશે. યસ, NGO માટે ઘણી બધી પોઝિટિવિટી છે CSR એક્ટ આવ્યા પછી, કે જેમ કહેવાય છે ને કે એક એન્ટરપ્રિન્યોર હોય ને, બિઝનેસની શરૂઆત કરે ત્યારે એને બધું જ લોડ પોતાની ઉપર લઈને ચાલવો પડે. HRનું કામ પણ એ કરે, માર્કેટિંગનું કામ પણ એ કરે, મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગનું કામ પણ એ કરે, ને બધું જ સંભાળતો હોય. પણ ગ્રેજ્યુઅલી ધીરે ધીરે જેમ જેમ વધતો જાય, એક્સપિરિયન્સ આવતા જાય, મેન પાવર વધતો જાય, એમ એની રિસ્પોન્સિબિલિટીઝ ઓછી થતી જાય. પછી કોઈ ફોકસ ડિવિઝનમાં જ એનું મેઇનલી ધ્યાન હોય. આપણે કહીએ ચાઇનામાં આટલી બધી ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીઝ કેમ ગ્રો થઈ? કારણ કે કોઈ પણ પ્રોડક્ટ બને છે ને તો ગવર્મેન્ટ જ બધું એનું પ્રોડક્શન ખરીદી લેતી હતી અને વેચતી હતી. એટલે એનું બર્ડન જે હતું વેચવા માટેનું ફોકસ સાવ જ ઓછું થઈ ગયું. CSR એક્ટ આવ્યા પછી જે કમિટમેન્ટથી કામ કરે છે ઓર્ગેનાઇઝેશન્સ ગ્રાઉન્ડ લેવલ ઉપર, એને માત્ર ને માત્ર ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટેશન ઉપર ધ્યાન આપવાનું છે. હવે એને જે ક્યાંથી હું રિસોર્સ મોબિલાઇઝ કરીશ, કાલ ઉઠીને પૈસા નહીં આવે તો હવે આગળ શું થશે? ઘણા પ્રોજેક્ટ્સ એવા છે, ઘણી સંસ્થાઓ એવી છે જે બહુ સારા ઇન્ટેન્શનથી શરૂ થઈ, ગવર્મેન્ટ એને બહુ સારી સપોર્ટ કરતા હતા, પ્રાઇવેટ ડોનર્સ પણ સપોર્ટ કરતા હતા. સરકારમાં શું થાય? સરકાર બદલાય, પ્રાયોરિટી બદલાય, પ્રોજેક્ટ ઘણી બધી વખત એવું બને કે ડિસકન્ટિન્યુ થાય. અધ વચ્ચેથી પ્રોજેક્ટ મૂકી અને વિડ્રો કરીને જતું રહેવું પડતું હતું સંસ્થાઓએ. સસ્ટેનેબિલિટીની જ્યારે આપણે વાત કરીએ છીએ, કોર્પોરેટ આવ્યા પછી હવે મેન્ડેટરી છે કંપનીને પણ સસ્ટેનેબલ પ્રોજેક્ટ બતાવવાના છે, કે અમે કોઈ કામ શરૂ કર્યું ત્યારે આ લેવલ ઉપર હતું, પહેલા વર્ષે અહીંયા લઈ ગયા, બીજા વર્ષે અહીંયા, ત્રીજા વર્ષે અહીંયા, અને અમે જ્યારે વિડ્રો કરીએ છીએ ત્યારે એના સસ્ટેનેબલ સ્ટેજમાં છે. જેમ નીરજલાલ સરે કીધું કે ઘણી બધી ફેમિલીઝ એવી છે કે જે લોકોને ખાવાના સાંસા હતા, અત્યારે બહુ જ સારી રીતે એ લોકો સસ્ટેન કરી શકે છે. ધીસ ઇઝ વોટ ધ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટી. હવે એ ફેમિલીને ફરીથી એજ્યુકેશનમાં કે લાઇવલીહુડ માટે કંઈ મદદ કરવાની જરૂર નથી. તો આ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટી છે. એટલે NGOની રિસ્પોન્સિબિલિટી હવે રિસોર્સ મોબિલાઇઝેશન માટેના જે એફોર્ટ્સ હતા એ ઓછા થયા છે, પણ સાથે સાથે એની એકાઉન્ટેબિલિટી વધી છે, આન્સરેબિલિટી વધી છે. એટલે આ ફોકસ એરિયામાં થોડું વધારે ધ્યાન આપવું પડે. ઘણી સંસ્થાઓ જોઈ છે બહુ જ સારી છે, પણ બુક કીપિંગમાં પુઅર હતી, અને એના કારણે એ લોકોએ સંબંધો બગાડીને, પોતાની ગુડવિલ બગાડીને સરેન્ડર કરવા પડ્યા છે પ્રોજેક્ટ્સ. એટલે અગેન જ્યારે ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટેશન ઉપર તમે ફોકસ આપતા હોય, કોઈકનું ફંડ લઈને હવે જ્યારે એની પણ આન્સરેબિલિટી છે, રિસ્પોન્સિબિલિટી છે બતાવવાની કે મારો પૈસો ક્યાં યુઝ થાય છે, કેવી રીતે યુઝ થાય છે, ત્યારે NGOની જવાબદારી બહુ જ વધી જાય છે. નોટ ઓનલી એઝ એ ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટિંગ એજન્સી બટ ડોક્યુમેન્ટેશન એન્ડ રિપોર્ટિંગ એજન્સી ટુ. થેન્ક યુ.
હા, એટલે સંદીપભાઈએ જે વાત કરીને એમાં હું ખાલી આપણે એમ કહીએ છીએ કે આપણે જે મેં પહેલાં વાત કરી રિસોર્સ મોબિલાઇઝેશનની, એટલે આપણી પાસે જેમ કે અહીંયા અત્યારે દેખાઈ રહ્યા છે કે અહીંયા ઇન્ટર્ન છે, આપણે એટલા બધા કોલેજીસ છે, યુનિવર્સિટીઝ છે જેમાં ગવર્મેન્ટ ઓફ ઇન્ડિયાએ ઇન્ટર્નશીપ કમ્પલસરી કરેલી છે. એટલે વી કેન સ્ટાર્ટ યુઝિંગ દેટ કાઇન્ડ ઓફ યંગસ્ટર્સ વિથ અસ એઝ અ વોલેન્ટિયર. So we can create the better documentation, better digital things. So then we can make our visibility more good and good. કારણ કે થાય છે શું, આપણે એવું વિચારીએ છીએ કે મારી પાસે રિસોર્સિસ નથી એટલે પૈસા નથી. મૂળ મુદ્દે હું એમ કહીશ કે પૈસા નથી. આજે હું વાત કરીશ તો 8 વર્ષથી એક ડિજિટલ માર્કેટિંગ એજન્સી છે જે અમારું ડિઝાઇનિંગનું ને બધું જ કામ વોલેન્ટરીલી કરે છે. ક્યારે એક પૈસો આઈ હેવ નોટ પેડ, અને એટલું અદ્ભુત કામ કરે છે. ખૂબ મોટી એજન્સી છે પણ વોલેન્ટરીલી કરે છે. બધા મને પૂછે કે તમારું ડિઝાઇનિંગ વર્ક ક્યાંથી થાય, કેવી રીતે થાય. હું કહું કે આ એજન્સી છે તો કે અમારું કરશે. મેં તો એ તમારા એપ્રોચ ઉપર આધારિત છે કે તમારું કરશે કે નહીં કરે. એટલે તમારે આઈડેન્ટિફાઈ કરવું પડશે કે એવા લોકો તમારી આસપાસ ક્યાં છે જેનો તમે રિસોર્સ તરીકે ઉપયોગ કરી શકો. એ રિસોર્સના બેઝ ઉપર તમે તમારી વિઝિબિલિટી અને વિઝિનિટી વધારી શકો તો કોર્પોરેટ આર વેરી ઓપન ટુ વર્ક વિથ યુ. અને સસ્ટેનેબિલિટીની જે વાત છે એ આ બધી જ પ્રક્રિયાઓ અને પરિસ્થિતિનું નિર્માણ આપણે જાતે કરવું પડશે. આપણે એમ કહીશું કે પ્રોજેક્ટ લઈને અમે કોર્પોરેટ પાસે જઈએ છીએ પણ કોર્પોરેટ્સ આર નોટ રેડી ટુ ફંડ અસ. કે રૂપાબેને એમ વાત કરી કે ઇન્ડિવિજ્યુઅલ જે આવે છે આપવાના વિચારથી કે એક દિવસ આપી દીધું, એવા અમે ગાંધીનગરમાં છીએ એટલે અમારી પાસે ઘણા બધા વ્યક્તિઓ આપે, બટ વી આર કન્વર્ટિંગ ધેમ ઇન આર રેગ્યુલર ડોનર્સ. અમે એવું કહીએ કોઈ બર્થડે સેલિબ્રેટ કરવા આવે તો રેગ્યુલર આવે છે અમારે ત્યાં. અમે એવું કહીએ છીએ કે બર્થડે સેલિબ્રેટ કરો તો તમે ખાલી કેક ખવડાવજો, બાકી અમને એજ્યુકેશન મટીરિયલની જરૂર છે. તમે આવતી સાલ અમને અત્યારે એક ટેમ્પરરી એજ્યુકેશન મટીરિયલ આપો, પણ આવતી સાલ જ્યારે સ્કૂલ શરૂ થવાની હોય ત્યારે યુ કેન કન્ટિન્યુ વિથ. એટલે એમ કરીને અમે અમારું રેપો બિલ્ડિંગ એ ડોનર્સ સાથે કરીએ છીએ. એટલે એ જ રીતે કોર્પોરેટ્સ આર ઓલ્સો રેડી અને ઇન્ડિવિજ્યુઅલ ડોનર્સ આર ઓલ્સો દેર, બટ ડિપેન્ડિંગ અપોન યુ હાઉ યુ કેન create your repo with this donors. They are not donors basically, they are your partners. પણ આપણે જે અત્યાર સુધી આટલા વર્ષોથી જે ડોનર્સના માઇન્ડસેટમાંથી આવતા નથી બહાર, એ બદલવાની જરૂર છે. CSR આવ્યા પછી હું એમ કહું છું કે હું પોતે પણ હું બિલકુલ વોલેન્ટ કે કાંઈક મારો બિઝનેસ અલગ કરું છું ને અમે લોકો અમારા પોતાના પૈસાથી જેમ પહેલાં વાત થઈ એમ રન કરતા હતા. CSR આવ્યા પછી અમે અમારું માઇન્ડસેટ ચેન્જ કર્યું એન્ડ વી સ્ટાર્ટેડ વર્કિંગ વિથ ધ કોર્પોરેટ્સ. પહેલાં કોઈને આન્સરેબલ નહોતા, નાવ વી આર આન્સરેબલ ટુ એવરી વન. સો ફર્સ્ટ પ્રાઇમરલી વી નીડ ટુ આન્સરેબલ ટુ આવરસેલ્ફ એન્ડ ધેન ધ સોસાયટી. સો આપણે એમ કહીશું કે બધું પછી હું છાતીએ બાંધીને રાખું તો દેટ ઇઝ નોટ પોસિબલ. વી નીડ ટુ ઓપન અપ. જે હું પહેલેથી કહું છું ને, જ્યારથી CSRના મંચ ઉપર હું બોલતો થયો છું ત્યારથી હું કહું છું કે વી નીડ ટુ ઓપન અપ. સો પેલું આપણને એમ છે કે મારું બાળક છે, મારા ફાધર કાયમ એમ કહેતા હતા કે આ ઉદ્ગમને તો છાતીએ બાંધીને રાખીશ તો તું ક્યાં જઈશ એમ. એટલે એ છાતીએ બાંધવાની પ્રક્રિયા આપણે મા બાપ તરીકે બરાબર છે કે આપણું સંસ્થા છે એટલે આપણને ગમે, પણ જો આપણે વધારે સરસ રીતે ઓપન થઈશું તો એવરીબડી ઇઝ રેડી ટુ work with us as a partners.
I think very relevant. Sandeep bhai used the word accountability, right? So we have some significant important words: sustainability, and then progressiveness, and then accountability is going to be key. No choice about it. અડધા રસ્તે તમે પ્રોજેક્ટ અટકી જાય તો પેલા કોર્પોરેટ બી સફર થાય, તમે બી સફર થાવ, રેપ્યુટેશનનું રિસ્ક તો ખરું જ, and then there are penalty mechanisms and there could be a chaos. So I think very important. અને જે મયુરભાઈએ કહ્યું કે they partners, they are not like the donors ને partners ની definition, even the CSR corporate has to understand this mindset that I'm partnering with an institution. And that precisely that's what Rupaben mentioned, કે સિચ્યુએશન એવી કે હું કંઈ આપી રહ્યો છું versus the Shrestiyos who just gave it without even knowing એક હાથ બીજા હાથને નાખ્યા. But this partner thing, I have one question for you and then I will go to Rupaben and then open up is that these partners, when we identify as corporate, what are the criteria in terms of how do you do the diligence, how do you do that, yes, this is the partner who will take me up to the end, who understand the CSR, એટલે એનું diligence કેવી રીતે કરો છો, અને what is the expectation from a corporate, કે what ultimately the impact that you want would happen through this partner. So identifying the partner would be an important point to know for the implementing partners.
Yes.
I think Bhusan Bhai has answered it in the morning session. 3-4 very critical things that we would look at as corporates. First thing, we look at what is your experience of implementing the project that you are submitting. Do you have expertise in-house? Okay. Expertise in-house has two parameters. First parameter is that whether this expertise in-house is through the people who are on your roll. Okay, many of the organizations come and they said we have 4 consultants working on us, with us. So that's something that I would be wary about. The second part is that how have they so far undertaken and reported through their website, looking at their annual report. So that if they have their expertise in-house is one criteria that we look at right in the beginning. Second criteria is what is their board, who is on their board. Very important that if there are people who also share the similar kind of interest and contributing, it is visible generally very clearly on the kind of reports that they do on the website. In addition to the expertise and board, now we look at third thing, how technologically savvy they are, because it is now panning out in a very different way. Let me give you an example. Any NGO we go to, since morning we are listening that वो reporting करते हैं कि नहीं करते हैं, reporting होना चाहिए. I believe in 3 to 5 years there will be no reporting. Reporting is going to be zero because technologically you can now feed all the data and I can get live report of that day. Okay, we partnered with an NGO, they promised and they tried doing it, but they didn't understand the complexity and it failed. But that was the idea. Why do I need Rupa Ben to send me a report? It's not required. If all activities are planned out, written down, and Rupa Ben had conducted that activity and every day that is filled up in a system, I should be able to get this. So ये 3 चीजें हैं. पहला, जो भी एक्टिविटी आप करने जा रहे हैं, जिसका भी आप प्रपोजल दे रहे हैं, उसमें आपकी इन हाउस एक्सपर्टाइज होनी चाहिए, बोरोड एक्सपर्टाइज नहीं चाहिए. दूसरी, आपका बोर्ड कैसा है, क्या आपका बोर्ड इन्वॉल्व है एक्टिविटी में. और तीसरा, आप रिपोर्टिंग कैसे करने जा रहे हो. आप मुझे रिपोर्ट लिख के हर 3 महीने पे भेजने जा रहे हो, प्रीटी डिफिकल्ट. अगले 3 साल ये चलने वाला है. बट ऑल दैट्स व्हाई आई यूज्ड सावन भाई द वर्ड प्रोग्रेसिव. अगर आप एक एनजीओ हो और पार्टनर की तरह काम करना चाहते हो तो अपनी टेक्नोलॉजिकल कैपेसिटीज़ बढ़ा लीजिए, क्योंकि इतना सिग्निफिकेंट CSR होने जा रहा है. और भूषण भाई ने सुबह में बहुत क्लियरली बोला, आई हैव शिफ्टेड टू हिंदी. सबको हिंदी समझ में आती है? हाँ, परफेक्ट, क्योंकि मैं गुजराती बोलूँगा तो बड़ा इंटरटेनमेंट होगा. भूषण भाई ने बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ एक बोला कि ये 25,000 करोड़ जो पिछले साल तक था ना, इस साल ही प्रोजेक्टेड इट टू बी 50,000 करोड़. ये जानते हैं क्यों हो रहा है? अगर कोई भी कॉरपोरेट को सस्टेन करना है अपने आप को तो उनकी ग्रोथ 8 से 10% होने वाली है. सो CSR प्रोजेक्ट्स की फंडिंग जो है वो उसी हिसाब से बढ़ रही है. We are seeing कि in 5 years time this total fund will be 1 lakh crore. इसमें उतने लोग नहीं है. ये भी मतलब भूषण भाई ने जो सुबह में बोल दिया उसके बाद कुछ बोलने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. उन्होंने कहा कि NGOs ही नहीं है. आई गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल. मैं अहमदाबाद, आई वोंट नेम, आई वॉज टॉकिंग टू मेयर ऑफ अहमदाबाद म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन एंड अ डिप्टी म्यूनिसिपल कमिश्नर एंड दे सेड कि हाँ यार सब, मैं बोला पार्टनरशिप करने की ज़रूरत है एंड ऑल. उन्होंने बोला सब ठीक है, आप NGOs ले आओ जो 60 लाख लोगों के साथ काम कर सकते हैं. आई टुक 5 steps बैक. ओके, सो सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स जो है ना, संदीप भाई ने बहुत क्लियरली बोला कि फंडिंग की तो अब चिंता ही नहीं है, सारे प्रोजेक्ट सस्टेनेबल हो चुके हैं.
Because you give one project for 5 years and you get commitment of fund for 5 years. So all your projects are turning into programs. All projects, please remember this distinction very clearly. All projects of CSR are turning into programs, and in 5 to 7 years you can change one person's life. It will not happen overnight, लेकिन अगर आपके पास 5-7 साल की फंडिंग है तो क्यों नहीं कर सकता है? This is no rocket science. Changing life is no rocket science. It's just perseverance. You need to continuously stay there and work. So this is what
and this 25,000 becoming 50,000. I'm just opening up for everybody's question, right? So the 25,000 becoming 50,000 and maybe 100,000 is annual, by the way. This is it is not just the total quantum every year spent. Can you imagine? So it is a no-brainer that there are not so many NGOs only ready to take this money. So that for NGOs it is a big learning that we have to be ready, and that readiness is capacity building, is the word used by Mayur Bhai, is what is going to be so very important. Last question to Rupa Ben, and then I'll open up for a few questions. Rupa Ben, you are a media lady in the background. And the NGOs also have to understand that there has to be some knowledge to people about them functioning with the objectives and the methodologies and what they are contributing. So what would be your maybe tip, guidance, advice to the NGOs के social media वापरो के केवु सु वापरो के तमे सु करो छो ये देखाए, because that is something which will be very important.
मैं इनफैक्ट वही मेरे दिमाग में चल रहा था. हमारे वहाँ NGO 2 प्रकार के हैं. एक है ट्रेडिशनल NGO, जैसे विकास गुरु को मैं ट्रेडिशनल NGO कहूँगी, और दूसरे बहुत सारे मॉडर्न NGO हैं जो लोग स्किल्ड पीपल को हायर करते हैं. यानी जो ट्रेडिशनल जो NGO है गुजरात के, वो मोस्ट ऑफ देम स्टार्टेड विद आई सेड के गांधीयन इंस्पिरेशन. तो वहाँ ये जो रिपोर्ट और या तो बाहर से लोगों को हायर करना कि अपने के लिए रिपोर्ट बनाए, प्रपोज़ल बनाए, वो ट्रेडिशन अभी तक नहीं है. वो ट्रेडिशन अभी तक वहाँ बहुत सारे, और उसी के कारण क्या होता है कि वो NGO अभी भी दे आर ऑन द काइंड ऑफ CSR तक उनको पहुँचने में दिक्कत होती है. वेयर इज़ द अदर मॉडर्न NGOs with whom I have worked also as a media professional, they reach to CSR, then they have a very beautiful way of making report, और उसी में फिर रिपोर्ट में ही आधा समय और पैसे चले जाते हैं. तो मुझे ऐसा बहुत लगता है कि there should be a system where if the CSR has gone to XYZ NGO, then आपने उस NGO के जो not beneficiary but the partners whom you are going to, whom we are working, उनके जीवन में क्या फ़र्क आया है, उसकी कोई फीडबैक की एक नई सिस्टम भी होनी चाहिए, which I believe. Because like as a media professional, when we used to do program, तो हमारा प्रोग्राम हमारे टारगेट ऑडियंस के पास पहुंचा के नहीं, उसके लिए there used to be a feedback system. तो it's not only report में तो I can write anything that my girl's life has totally changed, but exactly qualitatively उन लड़कियों में क्या फ़र्क आया, उसके लिए एक सिस्टम जो भी पार्टनर्स है कॉरपोरेट as well as the NGO, they should work on some format, some formula कि जिससे पता चले.
So Rupa Ben, my question is that
કેવી
રીતે આપણે
now media નો use જે છે, I believe કે we NGOs and corporate mostly they don't use media as a tool. અને હું તમને એક નાનકડું એક્ઝામ્પલ આપું છું કે નારાયણ દેસાઈ, કદાચ તમારામાંથી બહુ બધા જાણતા હશે, મહાદેવ દેસાઈના દીકરા, એ ગાંધી કથા કરતા હતા અને એક એમાં ગાંધી કથા કરેલી. Yes, exactly. That's why I know. Now ગાંધી કથા દૂરદર્શન પર રેકોર્ડ કરવા માટે મેં નારાયણ દેસાઈને કન્વિન્સ કરવા પ્રયત્ન કર્યો. એમણે કહ્યું કે ના, ગાંધી કથા મારે દૂરદર્શનમાં નથી કરવી. બહુ જ 2 વર્ષ સુધી એમને કન્વિન્સ કર્યા કે તમે દૂરદર્શનમાં ગાંધી કથા કરો, એની બહુ મોટી ઇમ્પેક્ટ છે. પછી એમણે મને 10 શરતો આપી, આવી રીતે આમ કરવાનું, આવી રીતે આમ કરવાનું, આવી રીતે આમ કરવાનું, તું જો આટલું ફોલો કરીશ તો હું ગાંધી કથા દૂરદર્શનમાં રેકોર્ડ કરવા આવું. આઈ સેડ કે એગ્રેડ. અને વી રેકોર્ડેડ ગાંધી કથા એન્ડ દેટ વોઝ ટેલિકાસ્ટ ઇન 32 પાર્ટ્સ. નાવ હી વેન્ટ ટુ યરવડા જેલ. એ વખતે કંઈક ફરવા માટે ગયા હતા યરવડા આગાખાનમાં. તો ત્યાં થોડીક બહેનો મળી, અરે તમે એ જ કાકાને કે જે દૂરદર્શન પર ગાંધી કથા કરો છો. દેન હી વોઝ ટ્રાવેલિંગ બાય બસ. સો સેડ યુ આર ધ સેમ કાકાના જેની ગાંધી કથા આવે છે. સો ટેલિવિઝન હેઝ દેટ ઇમ્પેક્ટ કે યુ રીચ આઉટ ટુ પીપલ ઇન લોટ. કારણ કે મેં દૂરદર્શનમાં કામ કર્યું છે એટલે હું એમ કહું કે દૂરદર્શન હેઝ ધ હાઈએસ્ટ રીચ ફોર કોમન મેન. હા, એટલે બેઝિકલી વી ડોન્ટ યુઝ મીડિયા. એટલે આઈ સજેસ્ટ દેટ કોર્પોરેટ એન્ડ NGO ઇન પાર્ટનરશિપ should use media. That is a media house as well as social media. આજે તો બધા જ લોકો સોશિયલ મીડિયા ઉપર છે, ઇન્સ્ટાગ્રામ, વોટેવર. સો that gives you a real great impact. અને આઈ હેવ મારો એક છેલ્લો એક્સપિરિયન્સ કહી દઉં કે વી સ્ટાર્ટેડ વન પ્રોગ્રામ કોલ્ડ મિશન મનોરંજન, જેમાં અમે બધા લોકોને લાઈવ બોલાવતા હતા અને વી યુઝ ટુ બધા કલાકારોને અને ક્વેશ્ચન આન્સર. અને વી સ્ટાર્ટેડ કે ફોલોઅર્સ યુટ્યુબ પર આપો અમને, બિકોઝ ઇટ યુઝ ટુ બી લાઈવ સ્ટ્રીમ ઇન યુટ્યુબ. યુ વોન્ટ બિલીવ, એક 4 જ પ્રોગ્રામની અંદર અવર ફોલોઅર્સ ખાલી 500 હતા, એમાંથી 1 લાખ પહોંચી ગયા. સો સોશિયલ મીડિયા હેઝ અ ટ્રીમેન્ડસ ઇમ્પેક્ટ, બટ it should be provided, it should be used in a right manner. That is the most important. પછી બધું ગમે તેમ લખવા માટે ને બોલવા માટે જો એનો ઉપયોગ કરવામાં આવે તો that can be a disaster also.
Thanks રૂપાબેન. મયુરભાઈ, you wanted to add something?
એટલે હું આને I can see in with the two perspective. For corporates is જેમ રૂપાબેને વાત કરી કે એન્ડ જે આપણી સાથે જે લોકો છે એ લોકોનો જેને બેનિફિટ મળ્યો છે એવા વ્યક્તિઓને આપણે વી કેન ટેક ધ ઇન્ટરવ્યૂઝ ઓર વી કેન ટેક ધ ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટ એમનું ઇમ્પેક્ટ બતાવવા માટે. એની પહેલાં જ નિરલલાલજીએ એવું કીધું, એમણે ઇમ્પેક્ટ બતાવી ઓલરેડી કોર્પોરેટની, એમના અરવિંદની, કે આ છોકરાઓએ સસ્ટેનેબિલિટીના ડ્રોઈંગ્સ કર્યા અને એમણે લિવાઇસને બધી કંપનીને મોકલ્યા. ઇન્ટરનેશનલ એટલે જે યુએસમાં કમ્યુનિટી બ્રાન્ડ બિલ્ડિંગનો કન્સેપ્ટથી લોકો કોર્પોરેટ કામ કરે, જે લોકો CSRના પૈસા યુઝ કરે છે એ લોકો કમ્યુનિટી બ્રાન્ડ બિલ્ડિંગની કામ કરે છે. એટલે કોર્પોરેટ ઓલ્સો નીડ્સ ટુ અન્ડરસ્ટેન્ડ ધ લાઈક Arvind is doing CSR brand building, like that corporate also needs to think and do the how we can do the corporate brand building. અહીંયા પરાગભાઈએ બહુ સરસ નાની ડોક્યુમેન્ટ એટલે એમના કામ વિશે બતાવ્યું. એટલે corporate also needs to understand how we can do our community brand building and work with their business partners for the community brand building, and they can also એમણે પણ એ માઇન્ડસેટમાંથી નીકળવાની જરૂર છે. જે મેં NGO માટે કીધું એમ છેલ્લે હું એવું કહીશ કે કોર્પોરેટે પણ એ માઇન્ડસેટમાંથી નીકળવાની જરૂર છે કે અમે અહીંયા પૈસા આપીએ છીએ, આ જે લોકો લેવા આવે છે, સોરી કોર્પોરેટને પણ હું એ જ રીતે કહીશ કે ઘણા બધા, કારણ કે હું ઇન્ડિયાના નેશનલ ફોરમ પર પણ ઘણી વખત જોઉં છું તો એ લોકોને બધાને એવું હોય છે કે શું આ બધા આવી જાય છે, મોટા કોર્પોરેટ્સના જે CSR રેટ્સ છે કે આ બધા NGO આવી જાય છે પ્રપોઝલ લઈને. એટલે એમણે પણ એ માઇન્ડસેટમાંથી NGOs માટે નીકળવાની જરૂર છે. અને એમણે એ માઇન્ડસેટ અરવિંદે જે ડેવલપ કર્યો કોમ્યુનિટી બ્રાન્ડ બિલ્ડિંગનો, એવો પણ માઇન્ડસેટ ડેવલપ કરવાની જરૂર છે કે આના થકી અમે એક સારું કામ કરીને, આઈ ઓલવેઝ સે કે બેટરમેન્ટ ઓફ ઇન્ડિયા, નોટ ફોર એની ઇન્ડિવિજ્યુઅલ્સ કરવાની જરૂર છે. અને ડિજિટલનો જેમ રૂપાબેને કીધું, એટલે બંને સાઈડ વિન વિન સિચ્યુએશન આપણે લેટ્સ ક્રિએટ ધ વિન વિન સિચ્યુએશન ફોર ધ બોથ સાઇડ ફોર વિથ ધ કોમ્યુનિટી બ્રાન્ડ બિલ્ડિંગ એન્ડ લેટ્સ મેક બેટર ઇન્ડિયા.
I would just like to add, it should be partnership, three partners in progress: NGO, corporate and media. All 3 partners together can work better.
I think good point. Just if you want to crisply take this social, returns, and then we can open up.
या सुबह से रिपोर्टिंग पे बहुत बात हो रही है और बहुत इम्पोर्टेंटली बोला कि रिपोर्टिंग हैज़ टू बी क्वालिटेटिव. ओके, सो इमोशंस इफ इट इज़ नॉट कमिंग इन योर रिपोर्ट, इसका मतलब वो रिपोर्ट का कोई वैल्यू नहीं है. एक्चुअली लाइफ कैसे चेंज हुआ है, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली एक्ट ने क्वालिटेटिव को कोई वैल्यू नहीं दिया है, ये सब क्वांटिटेटिव है. ठीक है. सो वन ऑफ द मेंबर इन माई बोर्ड वंस आस्क्ड मी व्हाट इज सोशल रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट मनीज दैट यू आर स्पेंडिंग. सो सोशल रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट अब आप हर एक फोरम में सुनोगे, और सोशल रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट आपको हाईलाइट करना पड़ेगा, और वो क्वांटिटेटिव है. ठीक है, क्वालिटेटिव है ही. सो क्वालिटेटिव मैंने बताया कि भाई लाइफ चेंज हो गया 8 दिन में. व्हेन दिस क्वेश्चन केम टू मी, क्वांटिफाइंग वाज वेरी इजी इफ यू हैव प्लान्ड इट वेल. मैंने सिंपल ये कहा कि एक बच्चे के ऊपर 10 साल में समझो 15,000 रुपये 20,000 रुपये हम खर्च कर रहे हैं, तो हमने 2 लाख रुपये खर्च किए. ठीक है, वो 2 लाख रुपये लेस देन ए ईयर में उसको वापस आ गए कमा के. ठीक है, विच इंडस्ट्री गिव्स यू अ लेस देन 1 ईयर रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट? सो दिस इज माई सोशल रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट, लेस देन 1 ईयर. ओके, अगर ये हमने प्लान कर लिया है, रिपोर्टिंग में कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं है. ठीक है, लेकिन ये प्लान्ड होना है. एज वी से इन मैनेजमेंट, स्टार्ट विद द एंड इन माइंड. सो इफ यू आर स्टार्टिंग अ प्रोजेक्ट विद द एंड इन माइंड, सब कुछ बहुत सिंपल हंकी डोरी है. एंड क्लियर नहीं है तो इट्स प्रिटी डिफिकल्ट.
We can open up for few questions. The gentleman had a question. No, Setu, beta, behind you, the gentleman had a question. If you can, तुम्हारे question હતો ને કંઈક? Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Because I think this is in a, I should not use the baby stage, but it is growing and it's going to grow about 1 lakh crore. So don't you think that there would be a third party, which could be NGO, to check the NGOs and CSRs working on that project? I tell you, and
already
having expert like SN or all those people in AMA, AMA can start in certain aspect of it. That let us do that. And CSR people, the corporate people would say, I give you 1 lakh rupee with the condition that you have to go through AMA. Like in industry, we have to go to Lloyd's. Let's say I have some manufactured product, then the Lloyd's has to inspect my product. And similarly, a third party person who checks the working of the NGO. And when you said, all of you NGO people, you said that CSR people just, they have to be partner. They do their business. It is obligation by the government that they spend 2% for the product. So they give you this kind of a fund. If they have to be part of it, maybe they may not have a time because they want to make money in their own business. So what I would say that if they have a third party checking, so to say checking, and maybe it may come out to be a better way of doing it, like in the school, in the education department, as you see it. If you go in the villages, education department is pathetic because we do not check how it has been implemented.
I think very important. That's what my question was to the gentleman here. That how do you do the diligence on your implementation partner? The corporates which have the capacity, like Arvind would have the capacity to do the diligence of that partner also, and those who do not have would outsource that capacity somebody to do this. Yes. So you can answer him to an extent.
I partly agree with you, and government has already made provisions for that, and partly I absolutely do not agree with you. So let me put the first part first. You said there should be a third party. The provision is already there for impact assessment, of course, of a certain size of industry. So if your total budget is above 1 crore and one project is being funded for at least 1 crore, both conditions put together, then you are subject to third party impact assessment. ओके सो ये ऑलरेडी किया हुआ है एंड इसमें फॉर प्रॉफिट नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट सभी आ सकते हैं, नॉट मोर देन आई थिंक सर्टेन परसेंटेज और 50 लाख रुपीज़ विच एवर इज है, उससे ज़्यादा खर्च नहीं हो सकता है. सो फर्स्ट पार्ट फर्स्ट, बट द सेकेंड कॉमेंट सर विच यू मेड आई डू नॉट एग्री. द सेकेंड कॉमेंट यू सेड कि पैसे दे दिए हैं तो आप अपना पैसे कमाने में लगे रहिए और उनको करने दीजिए काम, ठीक है ना. आई डोंट अग्री विथ इट बिकॉज CSR इज नो मोर जस्ट गिविंग मनी. ओके, CSR इज वेरी स्ट्रेटेजिक टू आवर बिजनेस. ओके, I may not be putting that money, CSR money, into this because all our projects, if you look at our CSR reports, you will see this part is spent by 2%, and there are other projects undertaken which is over and above 2%. Okay, so CSR is too important to be only left to my NGO. Because it is part of my sustainability, it is part of my ESG, and when I work well with my community, I communicate it to all my stakeholders. So all the better companies, Parag bhai said in the morning that top management doesn't spend time, as much time on the seeing the financials that they spend here. So when I go and make a presentation, my board gives me 45 minutes. They just keep on talking. I need to be pulled out of the room. Okay. So it's very, it is, to put it in a nutshell, CSR is too strategic to be left out. It is getting discussed in the boardrooms. It is getting discussed with the employees. It is being communicated to the stakeholders because it is now the board-driven process. It's,
thanks,
it cannot be,
Neeraj.
cannot be left.
Yes, please.
Okay, two things. One, first I wanted to say something about what Rupa ma'am said, that the media and social media, NGO and organization can use more, not only to let people know, ऐसे नहीं कि लोगों को दिखाने कि क्या हो रहा है, मगर जो भी चेंजेस हम कम्युनिटी में लाना चाहते हैं उसका भी कम्युनिकेशन अभी सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से बहुत जल्दी और ज़्यादा लोगों तक पहुंचता है. एक सिंपल एग्जाम्पल खाली दे रही हूँ कि मैं छोटा सा प्रोग्राम कर रही हूँ माल न्यूट्रिशन का. आई डिडंट इवन नो, बट माई असिस्टेंट हु केम विथ मी, जनरली शी वुड टेक वीडियो. दैट डे शी टुक अ फेसबुक लाइव के आई वॉज टॉकिंग टू मदर्स विथ एनिमेटेडली एंड शी वॉज आंसरिंग, एंड विद इन 2 minutes there were so many people who have already seen it, who have responded कि हाँ माल न्यूट्रिशन में लोग ऐसे भी सोचते हैं, ऐसा भी होता है. तो ये जो भी सोशल कॉज के लिए हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं उसमें हम पॉजिटिवली सोशल मीडिया का यूज़ कर सकते हैं. दूसरा, एज एन NGO वी कैन ऑल्सो पार्टनर टू शेयर इम्पॉर्टेंट इंफॉर्मेशन ऑन वन प्लेटफॉर्म. समथिंग एज सिंपल एज कि कोई प्रोजेक्ट बहुत कॉमन होते हैं, चाहे मैटरनल चाइल्ड हेल्थ है, एनी में आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट हेल्थ, या स्कूल हेल्थ की बात करें, या बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स हैं जो कॉमन होते हैं, माल न्यूट्रिशन की बात करें, तो देर इज़ सो मच ऑफ मटीरियल विच इज़ कॉन्स्टेंटली मेड न्यू एंड न्यू बाय गवर्नमेंट, बाय पीपल फॉर शेयरिंग एज अ मीडियम ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. क्योंकि जो भी प्रोग्राम होते हैं वो ग्राउंड लेवल पे काम करने वाले लोग करते हैं. प्रोजेक्ट बड़ा होगा मगर काम कौन कर रहा है? ग्राउंड लेवल पे. तो वो इंसान जो कम्युनिकेट करता है कम्युनिटी में, वो अगर स्टैंडर्डाइज होना चाहिए, क्वालिटी होना चाहिए. तो आजकल मीडिया का यूज़ है, वीडियो का यूज़ है, वो हमें एज एन NGO एंड एज ए CSR एजेंसी हमें उसमें इन्वेस्ट पैसा अलग से लगाना चाहिए और करना चाहिए ज़्यादा. वी हैव टू गिव इम्पोर्टेंस टू मीडिया to reach out larger number of people which may not be part of our project.
Yeah, I think very important guidance. Gentlemen, you had a question, please. Yeah, the last question, and then we'll take offline. Okay, we'll take the last from Varuna.
My question is to Mr. Lal. You spoke about 2 large long-term projects. Now, as a corporate, what makes you think to choose between a long-term project and a short-term project? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And from a corporate perspective, because you could see changes like when the government came into power, is talk about Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and now they are talking about climate change. So they have their sustainability subjects changing in 2 years, 3 years time, which is quite relevant. And corporate, I think short term would be good, but then I see a great example of long term strategy working great for Arvind. So how do you choose between those of them, and what are the advantages and disadvantages? Thank you.
I think any program which is less than 3 years for a corporate is not good to go. Okay, let me give you an example. Even to grow a tree, plant a sapling and grow a tree, it takes at least 3 to 5 years. Okay, if you are teaching a child, for him to complete class 12th and anything less than class 12th is not worth supporting, it's wastage of money. It takes 15 years. Okay, any project, you just name it, tell me anything that can be effective in 1 year. We just don't support that. However, there are stories, there are things which can be taken up other than your projects. That could be, awareness could be a thing that is being done in a very small area. It could be short term. As part of our larger rural development program, we conduct a lot of eye camps, health camps, reproductive health camp. These are events. You do it once, come out, it has completed, but it is part of the larger thing. So my answer to you is that as a corporate, I don't think anything is a project, everything is a program, and anything less than 3 years is, for a corporate, is not worth getting into.
Yeah, I think very relevant. Now, just last very short question and a short answer, and then we get on to the.
I don't know whether it is a short question or not. Let me tell you one thing: the NGOs and the senior leaders sitting here. I should say that people like me who joined an organization suddenly are given CSR. You are a committee head for CSR. We don't know what is CSR, first of all. So thanks that I joined this conference, I understood what is it all about. It's like I had been given an amount, as that this has to be spent, and this has to be spent before 31st of March. Books has to be cleared. So there is a gap here. I want most of the corporates, like spoken by sir, like 5 crore is something which is now a benchmark. There should be something on CSR education. I think this is missing in the corporates. Secondly, understand हमारा सोच गलत है. NGOs are also in trouble. They cannot spend all the amount what we are trying to give. It's galat hai ki that we find an NGO such that they spend the amount. I think that is also one point taken from here. It's like that, identifying a proper NGO. From this, I got one more idea to my organization that CSR has to be taken separately. A concentration has to be given. A person need to drive it properly such that it gives the end effect. That is what Mr. Lal was speaking about. So thanks to all these three, I want that AMA to work on building the CSR education to the corporates. Most of the corporates are missing. This has been started. Maybe some courses on that, on CSR thing. Education corporates, maybe calling Mr. Lal, I'll call somebody from here, take a half-day class and how to do it properly, how the education has to continue.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think these things will help in bringing up more and more awareness. Thank you so much to all of you on the dais.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we'll hand over to Dangayat sir for a very important valedictory session. Sir, however you're comfortable, you want the mic, this, you have 3 of them.
Thank you very much, Sawan Bhai. I think it's hello, yes. Thank you very much, Sawan Bhai, for giving me the opportunity. First of all, I want to compliment AMA for organizing this very vital round of discussion. As a matter of fact, as my friend here pointed out, CSR, I mean, it's a Western concept. Please understand, CSR, corporate social responsibility, it's purely a Western concept. Corporate social responsibility. As you all know very well, the governments have been always telling each one of us health, education, food and nutrition. These are the responsibilities of the government. So the question is, how did government start thinking about corporates taking up the social responsibility? Because when you say the corporate or when you say the company, obviously it is, say kind of a business, and in business everybody is angling and aiming to maximize profits. I studied at IIM Ahmedabad And what we were told was that the purpose of business, व्यापार का या धंधे का पर्पस क्या है? Maximize profits. Now this is a classical or neoclassical capitalistic concept. Capitalism जिस तरह से हम लोगों को बताया गया है और जिस तरह से सिखाया गया है पिछले 200 वर्षों से या 250 वर्षों से, उसकी बेसिस, उसका फाउंडेशन ही यही है कि प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइज करो, दूसरी किसी चीज का विचार मत करो. कैपिटलिज्म मीन्स प्योर प्रॉफिट, शुद्ध लाभ. शुद्ध लाभ के साथ न तो आपको इथिक्स देखना है, न आपको इन्वायरमेंट देखना है, न आपको इकोलॉजी देखना है, न आपको इक्विटी देखना है. ये सब आज के मॉडर्न कैपिटलिज्म, मॉडर्न मैनेजमेंट एजुकेशन के आयाम हैं. So maybe 60-70 years back, when corporates in the Western world started getting the flack from the society, started getting criticism, उन्होंने सोचा कि कुछ ना कुछ छोटा मोटा ऐसा करके दिखाएं जिससे हमारी इज्जत बरकरार रहे और इज्जत बढ़े और हमारी शेयर होल्डर वैल्यू भी बढ़े. तो सारा का सारा कामकाज जो है ये कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी का एक टर्म कॉइन करके शुरू कर दिया गया. रूपाबेन ने बहुत सही फरमाया और बहुत सही कहा कि गांधीयन थिंकिंग में ट्रस्टीशिप थी. यहाँ के सृष्टि अहमदाबाद के जो महाजन थे वो समाज को किसी को बताए बिना मदद करते थे और इतनी अच्छी तरह मदद करते थे कि कई लोगों का उद्धार और कल्याण होता था. महाजन जो कहते हैं, महाजन वॉज महाजन, जनों में सर्वश्रेष्ठ महाजन, ये यहाँ की प्रथा है. तो महाजन क्या करते थे? पैसे भी देते थे, मदद भी करते थे, मेंटरशिप भी देते थे, फैसिलिटी भी देते थे और उसके बाद में जो है सभी का कल्याण करते थे. तो कैपिटलिज्म जो है वो शुद्ध लाभ का पर्याय है. શુદ્ધ લાભનું સિનોનિમ, શુદ્ધ લાભનું જે છે કે બીજો વર્ડ જે છે એ કેપિટલિઝમ છે, જેમાં કોઈ પણ જાતની એથિક્સને સ્થાન નથી. સૌથી પહેલાં જે મોટા મોટા ધંધા થઈ રહ્યા છે એમાં એથિકલ તમે ફ્રેમવર્ક જુઓ, યુ વિલ ફાઇન્ડ ઇટ એબસેન્ટ, વેધર ઇટ ઇઝ એક્સ, વાય ઓર ઝી, વિધિન ઇન્ડિયા ઓર આઉટસાઇડ ઇન્ડિયા. You will be surprised to know that the large corporates in the world pay nominal taxes. Microsoft pays 0.2% of its global profits as taxes. Can you believe this? And this is true for most of the large companies. They are able to swing their profits from one constitution to another constituency, from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction, and evade taxes which are legitimately required to be paid to the places where they are operating, and they should, say, help that community. They don't do that. Now this is happening. So with this background, the corporate social responsibility concept came, and it's a Western concept. It is not an Indian concept. I run a small trust which is called Innovative Thought Forum. Innovative Thought Forum was started by me just before I was to retire, basically to keep myself constructively and creatively busy. And I have thought of taking up India-centric thoughts under its, you may say, scanner, and then to implement ideas which satisfy a 5S framework. And that 5S framework is simple, smart, sensible, sustainable, and scalable or spreadable. Only those ideas are the ones which we want to pilot under ITF. And that is what I am doing post my retirement from Syntex Industries, where I worked for 43 years. And while at Syntex Industries, obviously I always had some kind of an inbuilt thought process that we should work for solutions which are going to be sustainable. And that's why Syntex had developed a whole lot of solutions which were into the space of water, renewable energy, built environment. You talk about the waste management, etc., etc., etc. So we developed a whole lot of maybe things, and Syntex and obviously became a very famous kind of a name. But post that, this is what I am doing. So capitalism, coming back to to corporate social responsibility, started by the corporates outside of the world, then adopted by some on a voluntary basis, and later on XYZ. One thing that always is observed by all of us in India outside the premises of business or residence, there are two words which you will always find. There are two words outside every house, every business establishment in India across the country. What are those two words? What are those two words? What is Shubh Labh? Because हमारी सनातन पद्धति में, हमारे यहाँ की ट्रेडिशन में धंधा करना, पैसे कमाना, ये तो हमारा कर्तव्य माना जाता है. धर्म, अर्थ, काम, मोक्ष. अर्थ का अर्थ क्या है? अर्थ का मीनिंग क्या है? You have to naturally earn your livelihood and generate wealth. But that wealth has to be circumscribed and maybe overtaken by what? Dharma. Dharma is ethics. भारतवर्ष में, हमारे देश में, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, एथिकल प्रॉफिट्स को स्थान था. द मोमेंट योर प्रॉफिट्स आर एथिकल, आपके सारे सवालों का जवाब CSR में जो बातें करें सब जो आ जाते हैं उसमें क्यों आ जाते हैं? क्योंकि जब आप प्रॉफिट कमाएंगे तब आपको दूसरों का ख्याल करते हुए इन एन एथिकल एंड इन मोरल मैनर यू टू अर्न. सो धर्म, अर्थ एंड एथिकल प्रॉफिट्स. शुभ लाभ इज ऐसा लाभ जो कल्याणकारी हो, ऐसा प्रॉफिट जो कल्याणकारी हो. And that is what explains Lalbhai Group, for example. Look at the kind of lifestyle that the owners had, and look at many others yesteryear businessmen. They always thought about the others first, not maybe believing in their personal, you may say, X, Y or Z. So Shubh Labh ka framework jo hai, that is in my opinion required to be invoked when we are talking about CSR. The reason is very simple, that we have to earn profits which are going to be good, and that is what exactly you are going to do, because when you are earning the profits not for yourself but keeping in mind the ethics, keeping in mind the environment, keeping in mind the ecology and keeping in mind the equities, and everything will fall in place. मेरी आप सब लोगों से जो विनंती है कि आप जो है CSR मतलब जिसको कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, इन माय ओपिनियन दैट टर्म वी कैन थिंक ऑफ चेंजिंग टू कंपनी सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी अंडर कंपनीज एक्ट. कॉर्पोरेट जो क्या होता है कि कॉर्पोरेट सब लोग समझने लगते हैं कि कॉर्पोरेट मतलब बहुत बड़ी कंपनी. अभी जो CSR का जो फ्रेमवर्क है, जो लॉज हैं, उसमें आपने देखा 5 करोड़ का प्रॉफिट जो है, उससे ज़्यादा आपका प्रॉफिट हुआ तो यू हैव गॉट टू डिस्चार्ज द कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू दैट 2%. तो मैं इसको कहूँगा कंपनी सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कहें. और एक कदम और आगे चलूँगा कि यहाँ पर जितने लोग मौजूद हैं सब लोग ये भी सोचें कि देयर हैज़ टू बी ऑल्सो पर्सनल सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. सो CSR प्लस PSR दोनों के बारे में सोचना बहुत ही ज़रूरी है. अब कॉर्पोरेट्स कर रही हैं, कॉर्पोरेट का मैं जो है राज रह चुका हूँ. मैंने आपको बताया 43 बरस तक मैं कंपनी में था. ये CSR जो इट इज़ टेकन एज अ बर्डन रॉन्गली, and it is taken as a kind of maybe a responsibility that you have to discharge by giving it to X, Y or Z. तो सारा जो खेल है रियलिटी में भाई साहब, भाई और बहनों, ये सारा का सारा खेल जो है, बारिंग से वेरी फ्यू, ये एक तरीके का दिखावा है. आई एम सॉरी टू से बट दिस इज व्हाट इट इज. I am telling you very candidly because this is what is true, and this is what is happening. UN जैसी संस्थाएं हैं, आपने देखा होगा, आप कभी देखिए UN है, WHO है, इन सब संस्थाओं के बारे में आप देखें, पूछे भाई साहब आपके पास में जो कलेक्शन होता है उसके सामने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपेंस कितना है. UN का कहा जाता है कि अफ्रीका में 97% मनी गोज ऑन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. 97%. 3% goes, for the actual work. And what is that work? It is a work, which is relating to support, promotion, propaganda of the solutions and the products that they've got. यहाँ पर भी जो बाहर के आते हैं उनके भी यही काम होता है. I think, our present government is very much seized of, these kinds of drawbacks. And I'm very glad, to know from, wonderful presentation that has been made by Bhushan Punani ji, Divyang Bhai and, Neeraj Lal, that the companies are required to own up the responsibility, because that is what is expected under CSR. CSR में expectation ये है कि आप सिर्फ पैसे देके जो 2% क्या 2% of the profit is a nominal amount. मैं आपको सच बता रहा हूँ. But you bring your managerial competency, you bring your organizational power, and you bring your software पैसे तो सब लोग दे देते हैं, पैसे तो देने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, पर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन और उसका जो है होने के बाद दो और चीज़ें जो हैं, इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट, कंपाइलेशन ऑफ दैट एंड शेयरिंग इट विद अदर्स। जैसे मैंने बोला कि स्प्रेडिंग होना चाहिए। मान लिया जाए कि माल न्यूट्रिशन की बात है और आपको लगा कि मोरिंगा का काम बहुत अच्छा होता है, मोरिंगा से XYZ होता है, आपने उसका इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट कर दिया, दैट्स ऑल शोन, देन व्हाई कांट वी स्प्रेड मोरिंगा ऑल ओवर द कंट्री सो दैट द एनीमिया इज कंट्रोल्ड। तो कहने का मतलब ये है कि ये CSR के 50,000 करोड़ इज सच ए ह्यूज अमाउंट इफ इट इज ब्राइटली स्पेंड। कंपनीज जो हैं जब करती हैं CSR, ये मुझे कहना चाहिए दैट देयर आर 3 मे बी एम्स, 3 ऑब्जेक्टिव्स दैट दे कैन ऑल्सो लुक फॉर न्यू सॉल्यूशंस जो कोई दूसरा ट्राई नहीं करता है। मैं मानता हूं कि CSR के पैसे में नहीं आता, पर आज मान लिया जाए कि किसी कंपनी जैसे अरविंद ने, समझ लीजिए मैं कह रहा हूं, अरविंद ने मान लिया जाए कि कुछ जो है इस तरीके का जो वेस्ट वाटर का जो है XYZ किया और कोई खरीद नहीं रहा है, कोई दूसरी कंपनी जो है उसको खरीदे, उसको जो प्रोपेगेट करे, वैलिडेट करे, और वैलिडेट करने के बाद में जो XYZ करे, तो इसका जो है बहुत बड़ा जो है देश को लाभ हो सकता है। तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि जो चीज़ें सरकार ने अभी जो बनाई हुई हैं उसके पीछे एक लॉजिक है, द लॉजिक हैज़ टू बी अंडरस्टूड। पर हम सब लोगों की कंपनियों में या मैं कोई इंडिविजुअल लेवल या इंस्टीट्यूशन लेवल भावना जो है उसका होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। वी हैव गॉट वी हैव गॉट टू इन्फ्यूज आवर से काइंड ऑफ पैशन, एंथुजियाज्म एंड से इंटरेस्ट इन दिस इफ यू वांट टू टेक इट से वेरी फार। आज के जो इसमें मेरे ख्याल से बड़ी अच्छी अच्छी बातें बताई गई। आई हैपन टू बी on the board of 2-3 companies as an independent director. I have also headed, believe me or not, I have also headed CSR committee without knowing the kind of responsibilities and obligations that I carry. If, for example, the company, that I am, with, and it fails and it defaults on certain, the kinds of, you may say compliances, it can become, a personal liability for me. And for that, AMA should be obviously complemented and should also be requested that similar programs are held continuously, and it is going to be essential because AMA has got a whole lot of mid-sized companies as its the members, companies which have got the 5 crores plus. Not only that, all kinds of new firms that are there. They could be jewelry firms, or they could be they could be please understand, they could be maybe the construction firms, they could be LLPs, because please understand, under Companies Act, आपको मैं बता देना चाहूँगा, अंडर कंपनीज एक्ट LLP हो, प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी हो, आपके पार्टनरशिप कंपनी हो, सारी की सारी उसमें आ जाती हैं। तो CSR हर एक तरह की कंपनी को लगता है। तो ये जो मेरे ख्याल से हम जो करें आगे, तो आई थिंक वी शुड बी एबल टू स्प्रेड दिस टू many others, and it will obviously help the society and it will help the country a lot. मैं एक दो बातें और खाली कहना चाहूँगा कि इतना जो है CSR का सब कामकाज हो रहा है, 2-3 एरिया जो है जिसके अंदर कंट्री नीड्स ऑब्वियसली वेरी मे बी इमीडिएट काइंड ऑफ एन इम्पैक्ट एंड इनपुट। स्किलिंग में जो हम लोगों का रिकॉर्ड बहुत पुअर है, स्किलिंग के अंदर हमको काम करना चाहिए, ऐसा मैं मानता हूँ। दूसरी बात ये है हेल्थ, और इसके ऊपर तो हो ही रहा है कामकाज, पर हेल्थ एंड वेलनेस में जो है बहुत स्कोप है, बिकॉज हेल्थ इज़ द फाउंडेशन ऑफ एवरीथिंग एल्स। हेल्थ में काम होना चाहिए, स्किलिंग में काम होना चाहिए। एक छोटी सी बात बता के मैं ख़त्म करना चाहूँगा कि मोबाइल हमारे सब करोड़ों लोगों के पास में है, पर आप मानिए या नहीं मानिए, डिजिटल लिटरेसी हमारे देश में बहुत ही पुअर है। तो डिजिटल लिटरेसी दैट कैन बी ऑब्वियसली समथिंग विच कैन बी इनकरेज्ड एवरीवेयर। और भी बहुत चीज़ें हैं, देश में बड़ी मुश्किलें, पर लास्टली मैं इतना ही कहूँगा, एंड आई वुड लाइक टू से दैट all of us have to move away from the so-called profits at any cost to a Shubh Labh mode. We have to all become responsible, and we should all try to do things which are going to be good not only for us, for the others, because it is believe me or not, it is the best way to remain happy and healthy and sustainable. So with that, I would like to thank, and maybe close, I would like to thank all the people who made such wonderful presentations. I don't want to go and maybe into each and everything, but it was a very enlightening thing for me, enlightening thing for you. And I would like to make a couple of announcements. First of all, there are the forms given to you for giving your feedback. Kindly submit it, and secondly, collect your certificate while leaving. And secondly, the next conference is on the 20th of January, Friday, IP conference, IPR that is intellectual property rights, and it is going to be, there in the evening or maybe in the morning, but entire the program will be there on the website very, very soon. So thank you very much for a patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just 1 minute to sum up. And sir, always this is absolutely a pleasure to see the energy more than anything else of Dangayat sir, and what impact, because this capitalism, that unethical profitability or ethical profitability, is something that we all have to be looking into. Of course, Rupa Ben did mention about the women upliftment with mental health, with skill development. These are all Schedule 7 things of the, but so many things that they do in a single thing. Sandeep Bhai talked about accountability, sustainability, that Mayur Bhai gave us that, and very important that Mr. Lal said that what they are seeing, their NGOs have to be progressive, NGOs have, and the impact, of course, for example, Sandeep Bhai's impact, 5 lakh school to some 500,000 schools, 500 schools that we are talking about. So impact is very important. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of AMA, hearty vote of thanks to the dignitaries from first session to now, and all of you. Please join us for lunch at the same venue, the banquet. Thank you.